Chapter 969. Tsing Hui's current status was far from what it had been in the past. As he stepped into the battle zone, before he had the time to look for the giant Dragon City Master, the giant Dragon City Master had already sent someone to welcome him. All the teleportation formations along the way had been cleared and they were running properly. As soon as he arrived, the teleportation formations would be activated in less than a minute and send him to his destination. Under such circumstances, Tsing Hui met the giant Dragon City Master very quickly. Sword Emperor Tsing Hui, long time no see. How have you been? In the reception hall, the giant Dragon City Master smiled faintly. Tsing Hui sized up the giant Dragon City Master and said politely, after a few thousand years, the City Master has already smelted the 8th Great Doctrine Order. Congratulations. It seems that it won't be long before the City Master's ranking on the Supreme Divine list moves up again. I'm just lucky. In terms of growth speed, Sword Emperor Tsing Hui is definitely above us. Moreover, Sword Emperor Tsing Hui has the advantage of having a creation divine weapon. When you have smelted the 7th Great Doctrine Order, I'm afraid the few of us will be left in the dust in terms of fighting power. The giant Dragon City Master said. Tsing Hui replied modestly. What he had shown to the public was that he had smelted the 6th Great Doctrine Order. Such a standard was the most suitable for his current situation. Although he had only used a few thousand years to go from refining 3 types of laws to refining 6 types of laws, which could be said to be a stunning talent, it was not so fast that it was unacceptable. Sword Emperor Tsing Hui, have you made up your mind to make a deal with me? Tsing Hui knew what the giant Dragon City Master meant by a deal. He could only say regretfully, I have already told you that my secret skill is not something an ordinary person can cultivate. If they can't cultivate the secret skill, they won't be able to unleash the full power of a creation divine weapon. Is that so? The enthusiasm on the giant Dragon City Master's face dissipated slightly. If so, Sword Emperor Tsing Hui's visit this time, although I can't use a secret technique to trade with you, I have a lot of other things in my hands. For example, fortune divine weapons and nomological fragments. The giant Dragon City Lord shook his head. Sword Monarch Tsing Hui, you should know that it doesn't matter if it's a destinable artifact or a nomological fragment, it's nothing to me. Sword Monarch might not know this, but I obtained 6 nomological fragments last time. How can these nomological fragments be compared to the supreme treasure of the immortal Tao civilization? Qin Su smiled. He did not mind the City Lord's rejection at all. The City Lord only has clues to the supreme treasure of the immortal Tao civilization. It's not like you've already obtained it. It has already been several thousand years since the City Lord obtained the clues to the supreme treasure, yet the City Lord still hasn't obtained it. It's clear that the supreme treasure must be in the hands of some impressive figure. As a matter of fact, that figure is so powerful that even you, the City Lord of the giant Dragon City, would not dare to act recklessly. Am I right? So what if I am? The giant Dragon City Master said indifferently. I don't think I need to say which is more important between a supreme treasure that can't be obtained and the benefits that are right in front of you. As Tsing Hui spoke, he saw that the giant Dragon City Master was about to speak again. He quickly said, calm down, City Master. Don't you want to hear my offer? You said it just now. It's just the fortune divine jade and nomological fragments. These things are extremely precious to cultivators who have just entered the stage of great mediums. However, to experts like us, they aren't of much use. 1 or 2 nomological fragments aren't useful, but what about 10, a dozen, or even dozens of them? 10, a dozen, dozens of them? The giant Dragon City Master was stunned. Then, he became serious. Sword Monarch Tsing Hui, you mean? Tsing Hui stretched out 3 fingers, 30 pieces. I'll give you 30 law fragments in exchange for the clues about the fortune divine jade in your hands. 30 nomological fragments. The giant Dragon City Master was shocked. Where did you get so many nomological fragments? you don't have to worry about where I got my nomological fragments from. You just need to tell me if you want to make the deal. Xing Hui said. In fact, the nomological fragments in his hand originated from the Burning Blood God. It should be known that the Burning Blood God had infiltrated the Master of Chaos universe with his real body and killed several mythical beast primogenitors. A mythical beast primogenitor would have hundreds and thousands of nomological fragments. It was not an exaggeration to say that several mythical beast primogenitors had thousands of nomological fragments. Qing Su had been plotted against by the Burning Blood Lord. Although he had been teleported to the Burning Blood Lord's Chaosverse, he had still obtained over 100 fragments of laws before heading to the Burning Blood Lord's Chaosverse. Let alone 30 fragments, even 30 fragments would be a piece of cake for him. 30 nomological fragments, that's a big deal. Sword Monarch Xing Hui has really obtained an amazing inheritance. The giant dragon city master took a deep breath. In his life, the number of nomological fragments that he had used was probably less than 30. However, I admit that I'm very tempted. If I use the 30 nomological fragments, I can even complete the 9th or 10th Great Tao and become a powerful existence on par with Black Supremacy and White Supremacy. The Giant Dragon City Master sighed regretfully. The mayor of Giant Dragon City sighed regretfully. However, the value of this treasure from the immortal Tao civilization is just too shocking. I'm really unwilling to let it slip by me. Moreover, even if I give this information to the Master of Chaos, the reward I'll receive won't be much less than 30 nomological laws fragments. I'll even be able to get acquainted with the Master of Chaos. Hence, this price isn't enough to tempt me. Xing Hui shook his head. It seemed like the Giant Dragon City Master's appetite was not as simple as 30 nomological fragments. City Master, don't be so full of yourself. I think that if you can really get more than 30 nomological fragments by giving this information to the Master of Chaos, you would have told the Master of Chaos long ago when your cultivation level hasn't improved for a long time. There's only one explanation for why the Master of Chaos still hasn't found out about this. It's because the Master of Chaos has to put in a lot of effort to obtain this treasure. Based on this, the supreme treasure must be in the territory of the Master of Gods and the Master of Time. Since you've been in charge of fighting the Master of Time most of the time, even if there's a source of information, it must be from the Master of Time. In other words, the supreme treasure must be in the territory of the Master of Time. Thinking of this, Xing Hui's eyes sparkled. If you're not confident of obtaining it, that area must be in the sights of the Master of Time. Only a level 20 civilization or even a level 21 civilization can attract the attention of the Master of Time. The range has been narrowed down again. Let's calculate the battle zone you're in, Xing Hui slowly explained his deduction. In the beginning, the Giant Dragon City Master was still able to remain indifferent. However, when Xing Hui deduced the battle zone he was in step by step and pointed out 6 level 20 civilizations and 1 level 21 civilization, the Giant Dragon City Master's expression finally changed. The supreme treasure of the immortal Tao civilization must be in one of these 7 civilizations. Moreover, it's most likely in the level 21 civilization. As Xing Hui speculated, his gaze stopped on the Giant Dragon City Master as if he wanted to deduce the true location of the creation Sacred Jade from any slight reaction of the Giant Dragon City Master. However, the Giant Dragon City Master shook his head. Sword Emperor Xing Hui, you don't have to deceive me. It's impossible for you to see anything wrong with me. Moreover, even if you reduce the number of suspicious targets to only 7, what can you do? Can you still search through these 7 civilizations one by one? Moreover, even if you really manage to find it, I can just send the news to the Master of Chaos. Even though the treasure is in the territory of the Master of Time, and the Master of Chaos has to go against the Master of Time in order to obtain the treasure, do you think the Great Master of Chaos will be afraid? The Great Master of Chaos is not afraid of the Master of Time and the Master of Gods fighting together, let alone a mere Master of Time. In the end, I'll still gain a lot. When Tsing Hui heard this, his gaze gradually turned cold. Although his body's combat power was not weak, it would not be easy to kill the giant dragon city's governor because he did not bring the Scarlet Abyss sword with him, let alone interrogate him. He would need to capture him alive. He didn't even have enough strength to capture the giant dragon city's mayor alive. He had to capture him alive in an instant without giving him any time to react. Otherwise, the giant dragon city's mayor would be able to communicate with the Master of Chaos and report the news about the Fortune Jade to him. In order to do this, unless Tsing Hui's original body came personally, he would not be able to do it even if he had cultivated to 12 vein level. For a moment, Tsing Hui could only put away the coldness in his heart and said in a low voice, "Then, Giant Dragon City Master, tell me your conditions." 50 precept fragments. The Giant Dragon City Master said without hesitation. "That's too much. I still need to keep some precept fragments for my own use. If I really give you all these precept fragments, I don't know how long it will take for me to step into the 7 vein and 8 vein level." The Giant Dragon City Master was secretly shocked. He did not expect Tsing Hui to actually have 50 precept fragments. For a moment, he could not help but clench his teeth and not relent easily. Then, the two of them haggled for half a day. Finally, Tsing Hui completed the transaction with 46 precept fragments. I have to say that this is really a profitable transaction. You used a piece of information that you can't use to exchange for 46 precept fragments. This kind of transaction is rare in the world. The main thing is that the treasure is too precious. If Sword Emperor Tsing Hui could really get his hands on the treasure, forget 46 precept fragments, even if it were 56 or 66 precept fragments, there would definitely be people fighting to exchange with you. The Giant Dragon City Master laughed. That will have to wait until I get my hands on the treasure first. Tsing Hui said. The two of them had already signed a contract beforehand. Although the contract was not very secure, it was better than nothing. As Tsing Hui handed the 46 precept fragments to the Giant Dragon City Master, the Giant Dragon City Master passed a star map to him straightforwardly. "Sword Emperor Tsing Hui, if the information that I received is correct, the treasure should be in this civilization." Tsing Hui nodded and glanced at the star map. However, he soon noticed an abnormality. This civilization, he knew. It was the special civilization that Tsing Hui had chased after Yin Yu and a group of people when he had just returned to the battlefield after killing real god Ikisi. It was a civilization that had developed to rank 20 in just a few thousand years. Chapter 970. The Oracle Civilization. Tsing Hui was stunned. It was the Oracle Civilization. When Tsing Hui had gone to the war zone for the first time, he had heard Yin Yu and the others talk about the abnormalities of this civilization. After all, it had only taken a few thousand years for a civilization to evolve from rank 17 to rank 20. It was unbelievable. It was like a maverick cultivator becoming a dominator in a few thousand years. It was strange no matter how one looked at it. However, at that time, Tsing Hui's cultivation was still weak and could not deal with a rank 20 civilization. He could only keep this doubt in his heart for the time being, hoping to study it when he had time in the future. However, he did not expect, according to the information from the Giant Dragon City's mayor, the creation divine jade was most likely in this civilization. This civilization is only a rank 20 civilization. Although a rank 20 civilization has the power to kill a dominator if they gather their forces, it is nothing to us great divine powers. However, this civilization's computing power is extremely powerful. They have set up countless detectors in the starry sky where they are, more than a rank 21 civilization. In addition, this civilization is too close to the war zone's command center, and the one in charge of commanding that war zone is a rank 21 civilization. The Giant Dragon City's mayor explained. A rank 21 civilization. Any rank 21 civilization had the power to surround and kill a great divine power of the same level. This was talking about surrounding and killing, not defeating. In other words, the comprehensive combat power of every rank, 21 civilization was equivalent to a godly venerable. Of course, the prerequisite was that they had to gather their fleet to have such an effect. Compared to the Master of Gods, the Time King valued the civilizations under his command more. If a godly venerable in the Master of Gods' territory was in mortal danger, the Master of Gods might send a clone to help his subordinates out. The Time King valued his subordinates even more. If the giant dragon city's mayor really went to the Oracle civilization, it would be fine if he was not discovered. However, once he was discovered, the nearby rank 21 civilization, the Titan civilization, would immediately know. Once the Titan civilization joined the war, it would definitely attract the Time King's attention. Once the Lord of Time cast his gaze over and noticed the creation heavenly jade, at the level of the giant dragon city's mayor, he would definitely die. Of course. There was also a certain probability that the Lord of Time was distracted by other things and had no time to pay attention to the changes in his territory. However, this probability was like a person being aimed at by a gun and not being able to shoot accurately. It required a lot of courage. At the very least, judging from the reaction of the giant dragon city's city master, he didn't have enough confidence to take this gamble. I've already told you the location. Whether or not you can bring out the treasure from that civilization will depend on your ability. The giant dragon city's city lord said faintly. His words seemed to indicate that he wanted to settle the score. I understand. Tsing Hui nodded. Then, the deal is over. Sword Emperor Tsing Hui, do you want to rest here for a while? There's no need. I need to think about how to take out that treasure without anyone knowing. Then I shall congratulate Sword Emperor Tsing Hui in advance for your successful operation. Qing Su nodded and left the city lord's palace. Not long after Tsing Hui left, the giant dragon city's mayor immediately gave an order, Gomang. City lord. A circle of ripples spread, and a figure had already crossed the void and arrived in the hall. He bowed respectfully. Shockingly, this was a top expert that had attained the great divine ability realm. Moreover, he was a Tao protector that specialized in the spatial laws of the Rock clan. His combat strength was so formidable that he was probably not inferior to a 4-vein or 5-vein Tao protector. Go and inform Gushou to stop the operation. Stop the operation. City Lord. If that god civilization hadn't advanced too quickly in the past few years and spent the past few thousand years consolidating, accumulating, and learning other aspects of knowledge, I'm afraid they would have started to advance to a level 21 civilization long ago. However, they've already accumulated enough knowledge. According to Gushou's observations, the god civilization should be advancing to level 21 soon. Once they become a level 21 civilization, they'll definitely register with the Master of Gods. When that happens, we won't have any hope of obtaining that treasure. Wait. The giant dragon city's mayor shook his head. That civilization is too close to the Titan civilization. As the Titan civilization needs to target me, the Master of Time has given them a battleship made of immortal material. Once they detect our actions, we'll definitely be in danger. Rather than that, why don't we let the Sword Emperor Tsing Hui help us attract their firepower? Sir City Lord, you mean, recently, the Great Master of Chaos territory has not been very peaceful. The Great Master of Chaos has also been causing a lot of trouble. Under such circumstances, the Master of Time and the Master of Gods, who are close to the Master of Chaos, are already very vigilant in order to prevent the Master of Chaos from attacking them together. They definitely won't have much attention and computing power left in their own territories. If the Sword Emperor Tsing Hui helps us attract their firepower at this time, we'll be the last to strike. This can truly be said to be foolproof. I understand. Go. Pay close attention to the Sword Emperor Tsing Hui's movements. Yes. Gomang responded. With a flash of light, he disappeared without a trace. Master of Time, Tsing Hui's gaze fell on the star map given by the giant Dragon City's mayor. His expression was solemn. The Master of Chaos, the Master of Time, and the Master of Gods were supreme existences equivalent to the sixth tier of the Chaos realm. In terms of combat power, the Master of Chaos was the strongest, followed by the Master of Gods, and the Master of Time should be the weakest of the three. However, if all the evil gods, including the new Chaos life form Tsing Hui, were to evaluate these three supreme existences, the Master of Time would definitely be the most terrifying. This was because the Master of Time had always been known for his meticulous planning. It was said that the reason the Master of Chaos had been targeted by the immortal Tao civilization and embarked on the path of infinite division was because he had been schemed against by the Master of Time. However, no one had expected that the Master of Chaos, who had almost been killed by the immortal Tao civilization, would go all out and use the instantaneous division technique to devour the Master of Time, the Master of Gods, and even the immortal Tao civilization on the spot. Unless the Master of Time and the Master of Gods were willing to watch the immortal Tao civilization break through his chaotic universe and escape, they had no choice but to fight. In the end, the few supreme existences had no choice but to fight in the Master of Chaos's chaotic universe. In the end, the Master of Chaos had become the biggest winner. The Master of Time is different from the Master of Chaos. He has meticulous control over the civilizations in his territory. The God civilization was able to advance from a level 17 civilization to a peak level 20 civilization in just over 10,000 years. Even if the Master of Time spent most of his time in the Chaos Void, he should still be curious about the God civilization. Tsing Hui understood that he had to be prepared to face the Master of Time on this trip to the God civilization. Fortunately, his greatest advantage now was that he had already become a true chaotic life form. This should be outside the Master of Time's calculations. As long as he could deliver the creation jade fragment to his main body, so what if this clone of his was directly crushed into powder? I need a way to transfer the creation jade and deliver the last piece of the creation jade fragment to my main body. Tsing Hui pondered for a moment and quickly opened his eyes. Then, his figure began to rapidly travel away from this battlefield. His destination, however, it was not in the starry sky where the God civilization was but in a void near the Master of Chaos territory. The Jade Dragon soared into the sky. It was there. Even though this was only a clone formed from the reincarnation of the laws of fortune from the Green Ruins, after such a long period of time, this body had been refined to the point where regular supreme experts could not compare to it. Traveling at full speed, he arrived at the territory of the Immortal Path civilization that was extremely well hidden in just a few decades. After he contacted the Heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures and the Heavenly Lord of Vast Seas, the Purple Gold Immortal Emperor, who he was more familiar with, soon appeared and led Tsing Hui toward the Jade Dragon soared into the sky. Before they reached the Jade Dragon soared into the sky, there were already a few dozen people waiting far away. Tsing Hui looked over. Not only the Heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures and the Heavenly Lord of Vast Seas, but at least half of the immortal emperors in the entire immortal Tao civilization were here. After seeing Tsing Hui, everyone came forward at the same time, including the Heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures. They bowed respectfully to him. Greetings, Chaos Essence Saint. Tsing Hui's gaze landed on the Heavenly Lord of Vast Seas. Clearly, the Heavenly Lord of Vast Seas had informed everyone that he had transformed into a true Chaos life form. However, he had no intention of hiding this from the immortal Tao civilization. He waved his hand and said, "Don't be so courteous, everyone. Although I was lucky enough to break through, it is all thanks to the immortal Tao civilization that I am able to achieve what I have today. Moreover, the world I created is modeled after the origin point plate, the beginning of our immortal Tao. Once my true body is out of danger, I will gladly welcome you all if you wish to migrate to my chaotic universe. It is precisely because we learned that you have used our immortal Tao civilization as a foundation to create a new chaotic universe that we must bow and thank you. Your actions have brought us a new dawn. With your existence, the flame of our immortal Tao civilization will be reignited one day and illuminate all worlds. The Heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures spoke respectfully, his body trembling slightly. Clearly, he was touched and happy that the immortal Tao civilization had such a path and opportunity. From this day forth, the immortal Tao civilization would no longer be a rootless duckweed or precarious existence. As long as Tsing Hui was alive and his chaotic universe existed, they would always have the immortal Tao civilization's backing. As long as they did, the immortal Tao civilization would never be destroyed. Saint, when do you plan to resonate with the chaotic universe? Fuse it with the broken immortal Tao world? There is still one last thread of opportunity missing, and that is why I have come today. Chapter 971. In the Palace of the Heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures. At this moment, only Tsing Hui, the Heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures, and the Heavenly Lord of Vast Seas, three immortal emperor-level figures who were proficient in array formations, remained. Upon hearing Tsing Hui's words, the Heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures could not help but speak up to stop him. Saint, there's absolutely no need for us to take such a risk. Since the god civilization might be a trap left behind by the Time King, why should we step into it? You must know that the Time King is a great existence who is most adept at scheming. If we rashly step into his trap, we'll fall into it completely if we're not careful. When that happens, the flame that our immortal civilization has ignited with great difficulty will be extinguished once again. That's why I need the Heavenly Lord of Vast Seas and all of you to help me set up a teleportation array that can teleport me out the moment I step into the trap. It doesn't even matter if I'm teleported out. The key is the Creation Divine Jade Fragment. As long as I can obtain the Creation Divine Jade Fragment, I'll be able to completely repair the immortal civilization and resonate with the broken immortal civilization. When that happens, I'll become a peak existence second only to the Master of Chaos, the Master of Gods, and the Time King. Even if I have to face these three overlords again, it won't be difficult for me to at least protect my own life. Tsing Hui said. But if the Time King really placed the Creation Divine Jade Fragment in the God civilization just to attract other cultivators who have the Creation Divine Jade, then he'll definitely leave a backup plan in the Creation Divine Jade Fragment. When that happens, so what if he leaves a backup plan? No matter how the Time King plans, he can't possibly predict that I've already broken through to the fourth level of the Chaos Realm and transformed into a true chaotic life form. When I send the Creation Divine Jade to the chaotic universe where my main body is, I'll completely perfect the immortal civilization and resonate with it to break through to the fifth level of the Chaos Realm. Even if the Time King knows that the Creation Divine Jade is with me, he won't be able to do anything to me. But you'll inevitably be exposed at that time. If that happens, you might be hunted down by the Master of Chaos, the Master of Gods, the Time King, and even all the life forms that roam the periphery of this chaotic void. I have considered this problem. Tsing Hui had a faint smile on his face. Heavenly Monarch, there might be one detail that you're not clear about. I broke through as a chaos life form and stepped into the fourth level of the chaos realm as a chaos life form, not a creation life form. I know. The Lord of Plentiful Treasure said, chaos beings usually have extremely powerful recovery abilities and enormous bodies. If they choose to split themselves infinitely, the chaos being won't be able to kill the chaos being if the creation being of the same level doesn't have a strong enough foundation. But the problem is, if you're really exposed, you'll be attacked by not only the creation being of the fifth level, but also the Time Lord and the Master of Gods, who are equivalent to the sixth level. These two mighty existences have unimaginably rich foundations, and they have innumerable imperishable substances on them. If they all come at you at once, even if you choose to split yourself infinitely, you'll still be completely destroyed by them. No, the reason I specifically mentioned that I am a chaos life form is not because I have the powerful splitting characteristics of a chaos life form, but because of the immortal Tao civilization. The immortal Tao civilization? That's right. I don't know what kind of life form the great plate of primogeniture and plate of eternity were back then. Chaos lifeforms or creation lifeforms, but the immortal Tao civilization he created walked the path of a creation universe created by a creation lifeform. Therefore, if I can successfully resonate with the immortal Tao civilization and evolve to the 5th level, then it's very likely that I'll eventually become a wondrous lifeform with both creation and chaos characteristics in one body. A wondrous lifeform with both creation and chaos characteristics in one body. Tsing Hui's words stunned both the heavenly monarch of plentiful treasures and the heavenly monarch of vast seas. That's right. I'll have the powerful body of a chaos life form and the ability to split infinitely. At the same time, I'll have the swift teleportation speed of a creation life form. The heavenly monarch of plentiful treasures, the heavenly monarch of vast seas, and the other apex existences exchanged glances, feeling incredulous. But it was undeniable that, Tsing Hui's words did make some sense. Logically speaking, the great plate of founding ancestors and plate of eternity should have belonged to a being of chaos, yet he just happened to establish a world of immortal civilization that could only be established by a being of creation. In other words, if Qing Su could obtain the complete creation jade and restart the world of immortals, it was understandable that he would refine the damaged world that belonged to a being of creation into his own chaotic universe. After all, he was actually walking the path of the great plate of primogeniture. He was merely retracing the path that the great plate of primogeniture had taken, and it was the least likely path that would lead to problems. In fact, they all suspected that the great plate of primogeniture and plate of eternity might have been a unique life form that possessed both creation and chaos characteristics before reaching ultimate eternity. Otherwise, how could he have slain 3,000 chaos demon gods and established his supreme position? Don't worry, everyone. I'm a chaos life form at the end of the day, an existence equivalent to an evil god. I won't die that easily. Tsing Hui smiled faintly. When the heavenly lord of myriad treasures and the heavenly lord of vast sea heard Qing Su's words, they could only agree in the end, let's do as you say, saint. However, your current chaos verse has already left the lord of chaos territory, and you're being hunted down by the lord of chaos as well. It won't be easy for us to set up a teleportation formation. We'll need your cooperation and all sorts of information and data. Of course. Although the Lord of Burning Blood has been devoured by the Lord of Chaos, he's still a 5th level chaos life form. If he struggles and resists with all his might, he'll still cause quite a bit of trouble for the Lord of Chaos. His ability to split infinitely will give the Lord of Chaos a headache, so he shouldn't die anytime soon. Perhaps we can use a teleportation formation to pass through his chaos universe and mislead the Lord of Time, Master of Gods, and the others into thinking that the fortune jade was taken away by the Lord of Burning Blood's people. This way, we can at least buy some time before he dies. When Lord of Vast Sea heard Tsing Hui's words, he couldn't help but wipe away the non-existent sweat on his forehead. The Lord of Burning Blood was a peak 5th level chaos realm existence, but Tsing Hui had used him to the extreme. He'd sent someone straight to the mouth of the Lord of Chaos, yet he still wasn't willing to let him go. At this time, he still wanted to trap the Lord of Burning Blood. However, come to think of it, this wasn't a bad idea. Moreover, the Master of Burning Blood had already been devoured by the Master of Primal Chaos. If the Master of Time wanted to take the Fortune Jade from the Master of Burning Blood, he might even come into conflict with the Master of Primal Chaos. Once a conflict broke out between these two mighty existences, wouldn't they be able to manipulate even more space? The saint's words are worth a try. Alright, Vast Sea. You know more about Lord Searing Blood's Chaos Verse than I do, so I'll leave the task of entering his Chaos Verse to you. Back then, I had the experience of controlling Lord Searing Blood's Chaos Verse. Although he has regained control of his Chaos Verse after his return, I still left a backdoor in the universe will. You can use it as a transfer point. When the time comes, we'll be teleported to my Chaos Verse together with several other immortal emperors proficient in formations. Vast Sea and the other immortal emperors nodded in unison. Lord of myriad treasures, I need you to head to the Chaos Void to receive my message and assist Vast Sea in setting up a teleportation formation. I'll find a way to exchange for a tool on the battlefield that will allow you to stay in the Chaos Void for a long time. As you command, Saint. Lord of myriad treasures nodded. Xing Hui was about to start the operation after he finished delegating the task. However, he suddenly thought of something and asked, I remember that you've personally studied the Qingping Sword Spirit's information that was suspected to have come from the long river of time and space. Yes, we do have such a department. Alright, I have 2 items here for you to study. It's best if you can figure them out before we complete our arrangements. Xing Hui took out the crystal ball and the magic lamp that he had obtained from the Lord of Burning Blood's Chaos Universe. He also explained the functions of the crystal ball to them one by one. Lord of Myriad Treasures took the 2 treasures. His expression was full of surprise when he saw the crystal ball-like treasure. Don't worry, Saint. Since you've used a secret technique to analyze the images in this crystal ball, it's clear that our research direction is correct. We should be able to obtain preliminary information soon. Xing Hui nodded. These 2 treasures should have been left behind by Eternity Ultimate. The reason why the Lord of Burning Blood had attacked the Lord of Scarlet Hell, who was also a chaos life form, was probably because of these 2 treasures. Otherwise, even if they had the advantage of a realm, a chaos life form wouldn't easily start a war with another chaos life form. After all, the ability of a chaos life form to divide infinitely was too troublesome. Since the Lord of Burning Blood had taken the risk to snatch these 2 treasures, it was clear that they were very useful. If he could understand the mysteries of these 2 treasures, with the help of the crystal ball's ability to see through time and space, his following operations would be much smoother. This operation can be said to be of utmost importance. If the plan succeeds, we will no longer be lambs to the slaughter in front of the lords of chaos, time, and gods. We will truly have the right to be independent. It can be said that this is a battle that will determine our future and even the future of the immortal Tao civilization. Therefore, I ask that you all work together with me. In the end, Qing Su concluded. Lord of Myriad Treasures, Lord of Vast Seas, and the others nodded solemnly. We understand. Even if we have to risk our lives, we will set up the teleportation array properly. Lord of Vast Seas said solemnly. Then, get ready to move. The most critical moment has arrived. Xing Hui stood up. Immediately, everyone took their positions and left to make preparations. Xing Hui also left the Lord of Myriad Treasures' palace. He planned to guide his main body and cooperate with Lord of Vast Seas to set up the teleportation array. However, just as he left the Lord of Myriad Treasures' palace, a figure appeared in front of Xing Hui. It was the transforming Void Immortal Lord who had been in charge of the arrangements for the people in the Source World. When he saw Xing Hui, the transforming Void Immortal Lord stepped forward with a look of surprise and couldn't wait to report the good news that he had discovered thousands of years ago. Lord Xing Hui, I found the person you asked me to look for back then. I've finally found him. Chapter 972. Xing Hui looked at the surprised Void Transformation Immortal Monarch in front of him and could not help but be slightly stunned. Found what? Lord Xing Hui, do you still remember that thousands of years ago, when you first came to our Jade Dragon's soaring victory sky and saw the properly settled people of the Source World? You asked me to use my divine sense to find someone for you. Xing Hui immediately remembered, and the Void Transformation Immortal Monarch said this. Back then, the person he was looking for was his senior sister, Jiang Ningji, whom he had promised. However, he first used the entire world's power and paid a great price to search for Jiang Ningji's whereabouts, but he did not get any results. Then, he invited the Void Transformation Immortal Monarch to use his divine sense to search for Jiang Ningji's whereabouts, but it still ended in failure. At that time, even though he was very unwilling to face it, in reality, he already knew that Jiang Ningji was already dead. She had either died from the persecution of the Huang family or died from the disaster of the ferocious beasts caused by true god Ikisi. Since then, the figure that belonged to senior sister Jiang Ningji in his heart had gradually disappeared. People, in the end, he had to look forward and not be immersed in the painful past. But, now, according to the Void Transformation Immortal Monarch, he found her. He found senior sister Jiang Ningji. What did you say? Do you know who I'm looking for? Back then, didn't you say that you didn't find her? Xing Hui suddenly stepped forward, and the aura all over his body went out of control. Even if this body was only an incarnation, it still had combat strength that surpassed ordinary supreme experts. Now that his aura had gone out of control and exploded, it immediately caused the laws of the Jade Dragon soaring victory sky to change drastically. A terrifying gloom suddenly descended from the sky and covered the entire palace. The Void Transformation Immortal Monarch, who bore the brunt of it, felt the world in front of him suddenly collapse at this moment. Countless destructive torrents of doomsday poured down from Xing Hui with unstoppable power, wanting to crush all living beings in front of him into pieces. My lord, when the immortal monarch of myriad treasures was almost suffocated by the aura emanating from Xing Hui, his voice suddenly rang out, waking Xing Hui from his daze. They had just finished discussing the plan and hadn't left yet. In addition, this was the office of the Heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures. Because of this, he was able to react immediately after noticing the abnormality in the sky and woke Xing Hui up. Xing Hui, who had just regained his senses, suddenly realized that he had lost his composure. He looked at the Void Transformation Immortal Duke, who was in a sorry state under the pressure of his aura and almost stopped breathing. He quickly withdrew his aura and said, "Void Transformation Immortal Duke, I'm really sorry. I was too excited just now, so I lost my composure a little." I understand. The Void Transformation Immortal Monarch did not have any complaints in his heart. Instead, he was filled with joy. The bigger Xing Hui's reaction, the more it proved how important this person was to him. When the time came, Xing Hui would be even more grateful to him for finding this person. You really found her? Where is she? Quickly bring me there. Yes. Lord Xing Hui, please follow me. The Void Transformation Immortal Monarch quickly agreed and bowed to the Heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures at the same time. The Heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures raised his hand and said solemnly, "All right, now is not the time to be calculative about these empty formalities. Where is that woman? I'll go with you. She's currently in the sword-hanging villa. Let's go now." The Void Transformation Immortal Monarch agreed and quickly flew in the direction of the sword-hanging villa with Xing Hui. How did you find her? Xing Hui asked in a deep voice. He had calmed down a little by now. The Void Transformation Immortal Monarch quickly said, "Lord Xing Hui, after I learned that you were looking for the person, I purposely went to find out about her identity. Please forgive me, Lord Xing Hui. That woman's name should be Jiang Ningji or Fairy Jiang. At the same time, I purposely searched for the items that Fairy Jiang might have left behind. However, Fairy Jiang's sect was destroyed and the teleportation formation was activated. Her remaining items were also destroyed in the hands of the fierce beasts in the source world. A celestial artifact that can collect 3 keywords." Xing Hui was slightly taken aback. He finally understood which 3 keywords the Void Transformation Immortal Monarch was referring to. You must have guessed it, my lord. When the artifact collected the name Jiang Ningji, it would alert me. Then, I investigated with my soul. Even though there were countless misreports and coincidences, after a long period of persistence, I finally locked onto a woman one day. I purposely went to learn about her experiences. After that, I discovered that she was extremely similar to the Jiang Ningji that you're looking for, Lord Qing Su. Xing Hui nodded. It had to be said that the Void Transformation Immortal Monarch was very thoughtful. Although this method was a little stupid, it was the most effective and foolproof method. This is the information I found about the woman. She was known as Hunyuan when she was in the Source World. She followed us to the Source World to enter the Jade Dragon soaring victorious sky and broadcast the Celestial Tao method. In the end, she chose to cultivate and joined the Sword Crafting Tower. Although her cultivation talent wasn't very high, she was extremely hardworking. Many people in the Sword Crafting Tower had a deep impression of her. Even I was moved by her hardworking spirit and secretly gave her some support. The Void Transformation Immortal Monarch looked at Xing Hui cautiously as though he was worried that Xing Hui would blame him for acting on his own accord and approaching the person he was desperately looking for. However, Xing Hui's expression did not change much. He only said, "Continue." Yes. In the following period of time, the Blood Sun Fairy continued to cultivate. Due to her outstanding performance, she was recommended to enter the sword hanging villa established by the Hanging Sword Celestial Emperor. After that, she continued to cultivate in the sword hanging villa. From time to time, she would contact Fairy High Wire, who had joined the Boundless Mountain. However, Miss High Wire didn't know the identity of the Blood Sun Fairy. Moreover, since Fairy High Wire had many friends, the Blood Sun Fairy was only an ordinary friend in her eyes. After nearly 10,000 years, the Blood Sun Fairy had reached the true celestial realm. Xing Hui nodded. He could vaguely understand that this woman named Hunyuan was able to cultivate to the true immortal stage in 10,000 years because the Void Transformation Immortal Monarch had spent a lot of effort on her. Otherwise, she wouldn't have improved so quickly. Since the Void Transformation Immortal Monarch was willing to invest so much in Hunyuan, in that case, there was at least a 90% chance that Hunyuan was his senior sister, Jiang Ningji. The only thing he didn't understand was that he had mobilized a lot of people to look for Jiang Ningji on Earth for a year. The news of him looking for her had spread to every corner of Earth. Since she wasn't dead, why didn't she want to see him? Could it be, in the 10 or so years he had left Earth, senior sister Jiang Ningji had already established her own family, and had obtained the happiness she wanted? She didn't want him to disturb her anymore, therefore, she did not want to appear in front of him again. When Xing Hui thought of this, he felt an inexplicable pain in his heart. Now. How is she? I mean. Does she have a cultivation partner? Has she formed a family? Has she given birth to a child? Fairy Jiang is still living alone. She spends most of her time cultivating. She doesn't have the time to care about anything other than cultivation. Cultivating, Xing Hui could understand why Jiang Ningji was so passionate about cultivation. It could be said that the Eastern Sun Sword sect was destroyed because of Jiang Ningji's weakness. Back then, when the Huang family and the Yi family were about to attack them, Jiang Ningji had always been filled with regret. If she had been a famous martial saint expert like Jiang Xingdao, with a high reputation and absolute strength in the circle of cultivators at that time, even the Huang family and the Yi family would not have dared to behave atrociously in the Eastern Sun Sword sect, and the Eastern Sun Sword sect would not have fallen into such a situation. Xing Hui could not help but fall silent when he thought of this. When the Void Transformation Immortal Monarch saw that Xing Hui did not say anything, he did not dare to say anything else. He led the way and soon arrived at the Sword Hanging Villa. As a top force with a celestial emperor backing them, the Sword Hanging Villa was famous in the entire Immortal Tao civilization. It was one of the strongest forces. Even in the soaring Jade Dragon sky, where every inch of land was worth its weight in gold, the Sword Hanging Villa occupied a vast territory with a diameter of more than 1,000,000 kilometers. This territory was also set up with many top formations and layers of protection. Apart from heavenly lords, even celestial emperors could not break through the formations and enter. Unfortunately, not only were there heavenly lords who were above celestial emperors, but also Xing Hui, who was equivalent to a saint in the Immortal Tao civilization. Before the group of people arrived, Xian Yu Immortal Monarch, the vice villa master of the Sword Hanging Villa, who had received the news in advance, was already waiting here. When he saw the group of people, he quickly went up to greet them. "Welcome, heavenly lords. The Villa Master went to the outside world 16 years ago to develop a new fire seed of civilization, so he could not come to greet you immediately. Please forgive him." "It's fine." Heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures waved his hand. "We came secretly this time. I told you not to alert anyone. Just do as I said. I didn't tell anyone that you were coming." Heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures nodded and looked at Tsing Hui. Meanwhile, Tsing Hui looked at Immortal Monarch of Void Transformation. Without needing Tsing Hui to speak, Immortal Monarch of Void Transformation quickly said, "Fairy Jiang is on Eastern Sun Peak, 329,000 kilometers to the south." Eastern Sun Peak. Tsing Hui muttered the name, knowing that it was most likely the right place. He immediately spread his divine will and traveled hundreds of thousands of kilometers, landing on the Eastern Sun Peak that Immortal Monarch of Void Transformation had mentioned. Eastern Sun Peak was just one of the many peaks in the Sword-Hanging Villa. Although a true immortal was considered the upper echelon of the Sword-Hanging Villa, he could not occupy too much space in the soaring Jade Dragon sky, where every inch of land was worth its weight in gold. Tsing Hui's divine will spread out and scanned the area. He did not look carefully and finally landed on a woman who was teaching a few disciples. Even though the woman's appearance and aura had changed quite a bit compared to before, Qing Su was still able to confirm her identity the moment he saw her, Senior Sister Jiang. Chapter 973. Lord Tsing Hui, please. The Void Transformation Immortal Lord waved his hand. But Tsing Hui did not move. Through his divine sense, he looked at Jiang Ningji, who was teaching her disciples diligently hundreds of thousands of kilometers away. He just watched. Seeing this, the Void Transformation Immortal Lord, the Heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures, and the Immortal Lord Xian Yu did not dare to urge him. They accompanied Tsing Hui and waited for his next move. After a long while, Tsing Hui said again, "All right, let's go back." Go back. Hearing these two words, not to mention the Void Transformation Immortal Lord, even the Heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures was surprised. He had heard from the Void Transformation Immortal Lord that Tsing Hui had spent a lot of effort to find this woman, but now he was going to go back after just taking a look. "Lord Tsing Hui, could it be that this is not the fairy Jiang you are looking for?" "It's him." Then why don't you show yourself to see him?" "It's not time yet," Tsing Hui said, then turned around and said, "All right, let's go." The Heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures looked at Tsing Hui, who turned around and left without hesitation. He vaguely understood something. Although he felt a little heavy in his heart, he did not say anything. "Oh right, Void Transformation Immortal Lord, I'll have to trouble you to continue taking care of my senior sister Jiang for me for the next period of time." As Tsing Hui spoke, he took out a spatial treasure that contained a small world. "You can use the resources here on the left. As long as your talent is passable, it won't be difficult for you to become an immortal emperor. As for the rest, you can secretly give them to senior sister Jiang. I hope she can break through and become an immortal lord as soon as possible." When the Void Transformation Immortal Monarch heard Tsing Hui's words, he was overjoyed and quickly replied, "Thank you for your generous gift, Heavenly Monarch. Please rest assured, I will definitely not let Fairy Jiang suffer any harm." Immortal Lord Xian Yu looked at Immortal Lord Huasu enviously. When he found out that Jiang Ningji of Sword-Hanging Villa actually had such a background and was related to Heavenly Monarch Qing Su, who was said to have become a supreme expert, he couldn't wait to express his stance. "Rest assured, Heavenly Monarch. Since Fairy Jiang is in our Sword-Hanging Villa, we won't let anyone harm her unless our villa is destroyed." Tsing Hui nodded and left with the Lord of Plentiful Treasures. "Saint, what are you? I can't afford to be distracted right now, because we're about to face the most important operation of our civilization. The success of this operation will determine whether our civilization has the right to stand on equal footing with the Master of Chaos, the Master of Gods, and the Master of Time. Xing Hui said. In fact, the Lord of Plentiful Treasures had already guessed Xing Hui's plan from his reaction. The immortal civilization had indeed reached the most critical moment. Moreover, the opportunity and heavy burden of leading the immortal civilization to the top were all on Xing Hui's shoulders. It was reasonable that Xing Hui didn't dare relax at all. Saint. I'll leave everything to you. Don't worry, there's no time to lose. Take action as soon as possible. The longer you wait, the easier it is for additional variables to appear. I understand. The Lord of Plentiful Treasures nodded solemnly. Immediately, everyone took up their positions. Qing Su controlled his main body as he made his way towards the battle zone. While waiting for the Lord of Plentiful Treasures and the Lord of Vast Seas to complete their tasks, he spent a lot of effort to raise the cultivation of his body to a higher level. He didn't expect to be able to contend with the Master of Chaos, the Master of Gods, and the Master of Time, but he had to at least be able to stay alive in front of their Master of Battle avatars. While raising his cultivation, he also contacted the Golden Rock, Silver Plume, and the others to use them to investigate the Divine Yen civilization. They had long expressed their curiosity about the Divine Yen civilization. If the Master of Time intended to use the Creation Jade Fragment to lure out the other Creation Jade Fragments, the Master of Time would undoubtedly have already investigated them. He had only not killed them to avoid alerting the Master of Time. Therefore, even if they were sent to investigate the Divine Yen civilization, they wouldn't attract the Master of Time's attention. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, nearly 1,000 years had passed. To chaotic beings, 1,000 years might be equivalent to 1,000 seconds for mortals. It wasn't even half an hour. During this 1,000 years, he had finally laid out a series of groundwork. He had even deliberately separated a portion of his soul to condense an avatar and hide in the Burning Blood God's chaotic universe to cooperate with Heaven Monarch Vast Sea and the others. After all, the danger that Heaven Monarch Vast Sea and the others had on this trip was too shocking. If they weren't careful, they might be trapped in the Burning Blood God's chaotic universe. If Xing Hui's avatar was there to bring up the rear, their safety would undoubtedly be greatly increased. In any case, to a true chaotic being, losing 8 or 10 avatars with the combat strength of an ultimate powerhouse wouldn't cause too much of a loss. Now, let me unveil the true veil of the Divine Yen civilization and completely devour the Creation Divine Territory's bait that is hidden in the Divine Yen civilization. Qing Su sucked in a deep breath and glanced in the direction of the Jade Dragon soaring into the sky again. If it was said that Yu Yulong only truly valued his father, Qin Yuming, and a few others in the soaring Victory Heaven's world, then now, there was undoubtedly another person in this world who was worth fighting for. Whether it was for them or to repay the karma of the Creation Jade and restore the glory of the immortal Tao civilization, he couldn't fail this mission. Whoosh! Xing Hui took a step forward and crossed from the Master of Chaos territory to the Master of Time's territory. It's begun. In the Burning Blood God's chaotic universe, Heaven Monarch Vast Sea opened his eyes with a solemn expression. This moment has finally arrived. Whether our immortal Tao civilization can escape from this precarious and miserable life depends on this moment. We must obtain that Creation Jade Fragment. Heaven Monarch of Myriad Treasures also had a solemn expression. The giant Dragon City Lord, who had buried a large number of chess pieces in the periphery of the Divine Yen civilization, also stood up. You've finally made your move. After 1,000 years of preparation, it looks like you've made ample preparations. I wonder if you'll be able to deal with all the variables that may arise next and successfully obtain that supreme treasure of the immortal Tao civilization. After saying that, he ordered, Gomang, let Humiliate and the others prepare. The critical moment has arrived. Although the success or failure of Xing Hui's mission was related to the changes in the situation from now on, their actions were very secretive. As a result, apart from a few people who were involved in this matter, no one else knew about it. Whether it was the Master of Chaos territory or the Master of Time's territory, many powerful experts and top civilizations were still doing what they were doing in the past. Nothing had changed and everything was as usual. Amidst this atmosphere, Tsing Hui traversed the void and silently appeared in the divine Yen civilization under the concealment of various nomological powers. Just as the giant dragon city lord had said, there were a large number of detectors in the periphery of the divine Yen civilization. The density of detectors was almost to the extent of one every 10,000 kilometers. It should be known that in the vast starry sky, the range of influence of every civilization was equivalent to a sphere. Its size was so huge that it was far beyond what could be calculated on a plane. One detector every 10,000 kilometers meant that the number of detectors needed to be calculated over a few light-years was incalculable. Moreover, the territory of a rank 20 civilization was at least 100 light-years. These detectors are probably equipped with the technology of a rank 21 civilization. Not only do they have the ability to detect planes, but they also have the ability to detect dimensions and attack. Even if I want to jump through dimensions, I won't be able to do it. Even if I use a stupid method to disguise myself as a meteorite and spend a long time drifting over, it won't work either. Once I get close to the divine Yen civilization, I'll probably be smashed to pieces. It's really densely packed and has no blind spots. Even the giant dragon city lord has to deal with this problem. Tsing Hui stood outside this starry sky and looked at the countless detectors in front of him. However, it was just a problem. Just because the giant dragon city lord didn't have a solution didn't mean that he didn't have a solution either. After all, whether it was the territory of the Lord of Chaos or the Lord of Time, they were actually part of the immortal Tao civilization. However, these three great beings had joined forces to shatter the immortal Tao civilization. The entire immortal Tao civilization had shattered from a solid planet into a nebula-like gas. Although it was gas, it contained many fragments of the shattered planet, which were the fragments of the immortal Tao and nomological laws. What Tsing Hui needed to do now was to use these fragments of the immortal Tao nomological laws to enter the divine Yen civilization. The safest method is to use the creation nomological laws to transform a living being and then come into contact with the upper echelons of the divine Yen civilization. Although this method will take decades or centuries to settle down, and I might still fall into the Time Lord's trap in the end. To be safe, I can still afford to wait a few centuries. Tsing Hui's gaze swept past the detectors and finally stopped on a meteorite outside the divine Yen civilization. After that, he searched for the many fragments of the immortal Tao civilization's broken nomological laws and finally landed on a fragment of the creation nomological laws that didn't have the ability to regenerate one's creation. I choose you. The collapse of this fragment of the creation nomological laws was no longer mysterious, but... However, Qing Su was able to reactivate it. With a flick of Tsing Hui's hand, a stream of light directly bypassed the countless extremely advanced detectors of the divine Yen civilization and shot towards the fragment of the creation nomological laws. As the fragment of the creation nomological laws was forcefully activated, a strand of divine consciousness in the stream of light was immediately enveloped by the power of the fragment of the creation nomological laws and thrown into an administrative planet of the divine Yen civilization. Finally, it entered a family with a luxurious mansion. After assisting this strand of divine consciousness in completing its rebirth, the fragment of the creation nomological laws that had just been activated immediately fell silent again. All its power had been exhausted. Even if a fourth-tier Chaos Realm evil god came to investigate this place now, they definitely wouldn't be able to detect any abnormalities. Oh, for safety's sake, if I find more fragments of the creation nomological laws that I can use, I'll throw a few more clones down. After doing all this, Tsing Hui didn't stop and continued to search for new targets. A true fourth-tier Chaos Realm lifeform was just that capricious. They had too many tricks up their sleeves, and one or two failures didn't matter at all. This was also the strength of a fourth-tier Chaos Realm lifeform. Chapter 974. The divine civilization was a cultivator civilization under the Master of Time. The style of this civilization was completely different from that of the Master of Gods and the Master of Chaos. If the Master of Chaos relied entirely on himself and focused on developing his own power, then the Master of Gods relied on the strength of a group. He gathered the faith and divine power of countless living beings to establish a divine system and divine nation to become a godly king and a godly venerable. The Master of Time, on the other hand, relied entirely on external objects. Any cultivator from the Master of Time civilization was extremely weak. They were so weak that they could be killed even if they were 1 or 2 stages below the same realm. Their strength was built on their own war machines. After Tsing Hui's clones entered the divine civilization, they displayed extremely shocking talents on different administrative planets. The first divine consciousness clone, in particular, was born in a wealthy family and had a good supply of resources. It had built its own mecha at the age of 10 and its own battleship at the age of 12. At the age of 16, it even had the ability to separate its consciousness and program with the separated consciousness. This ability could break the shackles of life forms and allow their consciousness to roam the sea of information in the form of artificial intelligence. Their computing power would increase exponentially. Only a life form of this level could have enough computing power to modify a white dwarf or even a neutron star and build powerful war machines. 100 years passed. As the number of his clones continued to increase, he gradually came into contact with the core of the Oracle civilization. He understood that apart from the central optical computer, there was actually a super-optical computer called Oracle in the Oracle civilization. If he guessed correctly, the core driving this optical computer was very likely the target of his trip, the broken creation divine Jade. To get close to the central optical computer, one has to be a member of the Supreme Council. There are billions of people in the divine civilization, but there are only 9 members of the Supreme Council. Tsing Hui's main clone, who came from an excellent background, had been promoted to the governor of a large star system. He governed a large star system and dozens of planets. Originally, he hadn't come into contact with the core universe-cutting technology, but he had the foundation of the black hole battleship manufacturing technology. In addition, he was a chaos realm life form, so his understanding of the cutting, splitting, and annihilation of the chaotic universe far exceeded the understanding of ordinary people. With the black hole technology, he could easily separate the universe-cutting technology. In other words, his body already had the strength equivalent to the 28 fleets of the divine Yen civilization. As for the 28 main battleships, the combined power of each fleet was at least comparable to that of a dominator. The top 10 fleets with 2 or even 3 universe flagships were comparable to the combined power of 3 or 4 dominators. From this point, it could be deduced that the divine Yen civilization had reached the critical point of being promoted to a level 21 civilization. If they were allowed to continue developing, once they created dimensional battleships, ordinary powerful beings would have a huge headache when facing them. I have to test it out as soon as possible. Tsing Hui's incarnation did not move. This avatar had a pretty good identity. Just one more level and he would be able to take up an important position in the capital star system. After that, with some experience, he might even be able to become one of the 9 people in the Supreme Council. As for his test mission, he handed it over to another avatar. Although this avatar did not have a good background, he still had Tsing Hui, a chaotic being, as his foundation. He had accumulated a huge fleet in the past 100 years. With a single thought from Tsing Hui, this avatar united with an opposing force in the divine Yen civilization and launched a large-scale rebellion under the slogan of returning freedom to the people. Under the leadership of a universe flagship, millions of black hole level, neutron level, and normal level battleships launched a large-scale lightning attack on the capital star where the central computer was located. A civil war instantly engulfed the entire divine Yen civilization. This plan was flawless by Tsing Hui himself. Although the capital star often had 2 fleets protecting the galaxy, one was usually in maintenance, while the other was in service. Although the maintenance fleets could quickly join the battle, they still needed some time. Xing Hui's goal was to launch a lightning attack and take control of the capital star system, the central computer, and the Divine Yen super-optical supercomputer hidden behind the central computer as quickly as possible. As for whether he could escape from the Divine Yen civilization with the power he had, that was not something he needed to consider. Xing Hui's most powerful avatar, who was stationed outside the Divine Yen civilization, suddenly opened his eyes. Just as his rebel fleet had attacked the outer defenses of the capital star system, a dimensional battleship had appeared in the capital star system and directly shattered the battleship controlled by Xing Hui. Even Xing Hui's avatar was killed in one fell swoop. Now, the entire fleet was beginning to collapse. They actually have dimensional battleships? Dimensional battleships are the symbol of a level 21 civilization. Has the Divine Yen civilization secretly developed to level 21? Or, is this simply their hidden strength? Xing Hui's eyes flashed. At the next moment, another clone that had been hiding in the fleet all this while moved. This avatar did not have any decent forces around him. He spent all his time and energy building his own battleship, and the core material he used to build the battleship was a damaged creation artifact. Xing Hui had spent a lot of effort in order to let this avatar obtain this damaged creation artifact. With the damaged creation artifact as the core, the super battleship that was equipped with dimensional battleship technology exploded with all its power. The dimensional battleship guarding the Divine Yen civilization was instantly destroyed. After destroying the dimensional battleship, the super battleship that contained the creation artifact jumped through dimensions and directly entered the capital star of the Divine Yen civilization. In an instant, a large number of robots were sent to snatch the central optical supercomputer that occupied about 10 kilometers. At the same time, even more robots rushed toward the Divine Yen super-optical supercomputer that was also hidden on the capital star. It looked like they were going to occupy this super-optical supercomputer as well. But just as Xing Hui's avatar, who had specially developed his avatar, approached the Divine Yen supercomputer, a strong torrent of information exploded from the Divine Yen supercomputer. The data capacity was so large that it far exceeded the computing power of any computer. It swept violently in all directions and instantly paralyzed all the photonic computer systems in the capital star system. All the electronic and mechanical equipment that involved computing power crashed and burned in the face of this information torrent. Even the super battleship that Xing Hui's avatar was no exception. This is definitely the Time King's secret move. Xing Hui's expression froze slightly. The Divine Yen civilization definitely could not have developed such an astonishing information weapon. However, when his avatar and the super battleship that he had spent so much effort to build using the broken creation artifact were destroyed, the avatar faintly sensed a resonance wave that warmed his heart. The Creation Divine Jade. The Creation Divine Jade fragment is indeed in the Divine Yen super-optical supercomputer. Xing Hui took a deep breath. The Time King's courage was astonishing. He had actually left the Creation Divine Jade fragment in the Divine Yen civilization to lure people into his trap. Perhaps it was because he was extremely confident in his arrangements, or perhaps it was because of some other reason. In any case, his senses could not be wrong. The last piece of the Creation Divine Jade was indeed in that supercomputer. As long as he could obtain that piece of Creation Divine Jade and complete it, the chaotic universe that he had created using the immortal Tao civilization as a model would be completely perfected. Then, he would be able to resonate with the broken immortal Tao civilization and obtain the support of this world's power. He would then be able to rush to the fifth stage of the Chaos realm in one go and truly have the qualifications to bargain with the Master of Chaos, the Time King, and the Master of Gods. Now, the only problem was how he was going to obtain that piece of Creation Divine Jade despite knowing that the Divine Yen civilization was a trap and under the Time King's obstruction. Should he continue to use the avatar that had become the Great Council to study and slowly become one of the 9 Great Counselors of the Supreme Council, or He might as well use this avatar to rush over and see if the Time King's methods were more brilliant or if his avatar was stronger. Buzz buzz. Just as Tsing Hui was considering how to solve the problem once and for all, a communication jade talisman that he had specially left for the Heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures suddenly vibrated slightly. Then, a message from the Heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures came. Saint. It seems like the Burning Blood King can't hold on any longer. Can't hold on any longer? Tsing Hui was stunned. Not really. The Burning Blood King is a veteran Chaos Realm expert and a Chaos creature. Once he encounters danger, he can split infinitely. Even if the Master of Chaos wants to devour him completely, it won't be easy. It's only been a little over 1,000 years. How can he not hold on? I reckon he can hold on for another 100,000 years. But the problem now isn't just the Master of Chaos alone. The Time King and Master of Gods are also involved. Based on the current deterioration rate, the Burning Blood King can only hold on for another 1,000 years at most. The Time King and Master of Gods. Tsing Hui's heart skipped a beat. He shifted his consciousness and glanced at the Master of Chaos, the Time King, and the Master of Gods from a distance through the chaotic void. In the past 1,000 years, he had escaped a certain distance in order to avoid the attacks of the Master of Chaos. These three supreme existences were already some distance away from him, so he naturally couldn't see them clearly. He only knew that these three supreme existences, who were originally very close to him, were now even closer. They were almost face to face with each other. The next moment, his consciousness shifted to the Burning Blood King's avatar. He then controlled this hidden avatar to walk out of his hiding place and explore around. After some investigation, he discovered that it wasn't just the Master of Chaos's forces that were attacking the Burning Blood King's chaotic universe. The dimensional battleships under the Time King and the Supreme Ultimate Gods under the Master of Gods were also among them. The Master of Gods and the Time King had invaded the Master of Chaos' chaotic universe to get a share of the pie. Chapter 975. The Master of Chaos devoured the Bloodburn Lord in one go and treated him as a possession of the Master of Chaos. For the Master of Gods and the Master of Time to interfere in this matter and try to take a share of the loot from the Bloodburn Lord. I'm afraid they'll incur the Master of Chaos' wrath. Tsing Hui's main body, which was rapidly fleeing towards the chaotic void, quickly stopped. He was also puzzled as to why the Master of Chaos had not pursued him after splitting off a part of the chaotic universe to launch a series of attacks on him. It was not that the Master of Chaos was disdainful, but that he could not spare so much energy. The Lord of Chaos, the Master of Gods, and the Lord of Time have vaguely formed an alliance to resist the 30 to 40 evil gods that roam outside the immortal Tao civilization. However, that doesn't mean there's no conflict between them. On the contrary, their conflict runs deep, and now, that conflict has clearly erupted due to the potential benefits that the Lord of Searing Blood might have. After all, while others might not know that the Lord of Chaos creation Jade Fragment had fallen into the Lord of Searing Blood's hands, that doesn't mean the Master of Gods and the Lord of Time are unaware as well. The Master of Gods, Time Lord, and Master of Chaos had fallen out over half a piece of the creation Jade. This was completely reasonable. Although it was good news that these three great existences had fallen out with each other, it caused the clone outside the Divine Yen civilization to break out in cold sweat. Based on the fact that the Master of Gods and Time Lord knew that the creation Jade was in the Burning Blood Lord's hands, if the Time Lord had really left a trap in the Divine Yen civilization, then this trap would definitely be so powerful that it could trap the Burning Blood Lord's true body that had condensed most of the chaotic universe's energy. If his clone really thought that his strength was not bad and forcefully stepped into the Time Lord's trap, he would definitely die without a trace. If I want to successfully escape from the Time Lord's clone, I must be a chaotic lifeform's main body. Only the main body can withstand the power of the Time Lord's trap. However, if my main body approaches, the Time Lord, Master of Gods, and Master of Chaos will definitely sense it. I'll probably be attacked before I even reach the divine Yen civilization. Given my current size, it will definitely be difficult for me to survive the attacks of these three supreme existences. Xing Hui's gaze landed on the Master of Chaos, Master of Gods, and Time Lord who had fallen into chaos. He needed the situation to become more chaotic. Only when the situation became more chaotic would they be able to fish in troubled waters. With that in mind, Xing Hui didn't hesitate to divide the message into millions of pieces and send it as quickly as possible to the evil gods roaming outside the broken world of immortal Tao. The ultimate treasure of the immortal Tao civilization, the Fortune Jade, has already appeared and is in the hands of the Burning Blood ruler. The alliance of the Master of Chaos, the Master of Gods, and the Master of Time has disintegrated in order to obtain this item. Now is the perfect opportunity for us to obtain this ultimate treasure. If we miss this opportunity, we will completely miss the opportunity to obtain the secrets of eternity contained in the immortal Tao civilization. Xing Hui's figure did not stop at all after the message was sent. His body turned, and he actually once again shot towards the Master of Chaos at full speed. It would take hundreds or thousands of years for his message to reach the wandering evil gods, but he believed that the evil gods must have already made their move when the chaotic battle between the Master of Gods, the Master of Chaos, and the Master of Time had begun. After all, no ordinary evil god would have the courage to roam in front of the three supreme existences, the Master of Chaos, the Master of Time, and the Master of Gods. Even if they temporarily exchanged blows with them, they would still be able to barely escape unscathed, let alone approach these three supreme existences. Too short a time. If this trend continues, the Burning Blood ruler may really be defeated by the Master of Chaos, the Master of Gods, and the Master of Time within 1,000 years. Moreover, during this period of time, although the Master of Gods, the Master of Time, and the Master of Chaos have had a lot of conflicts with the Master of Chaos, they have maintained sufficient rationality and stopped all conflicts within a reasonable time. There has not been a full-scale war. I even received news from the Dragon Sword Celestial Master that during the attack on the Burning Blood ruler's chaotic universe, killing the godly kings and ultimate gods of the Master of Gods, and destroying the level 21 civilizations of the Master of Time, will not give any additional merit. From this, it can be seen that the Master of Chaos, the Master of Time, and the Master of Gods are restraining their conflicts with each other. Xing Hui's avatar in the Burning Blood ruler's territory was a little anxious. Because his true body had fled far away from the Master of Chaos's chaotic universe 1,000 years ago, it was impossible for him to split his power to form an avatar. At this moment, the avatar in the Burning Blood ruler's territory was just an ordinary Great Master's body that had been cultivated with many resources left behind. Even though his superior comprehension allowed his clone to possess the battle prowess of a peak great ability user, a great ability user who was slightly stronger than ordinary god kings would not be of much use in a large-scale battle like this. As a matter of fact, even supreme existences like the Bamboo Shadow Sword Master, the White Emperor, and the Rudiment World Lord would not be of much use if they went overboard and attracted a collective attack. Only death awaited them. The only way to make the Burning Blood Lord last a little longer is to let the Time Lord, the Master of Gods, and the Master of Chaos not be so close to each other. If the practitioners of the three sides can break out into conflict or even fight to the death, the barely maintained tacit understanding between the Time Lord, the Master of Gods, and the Master of Chaos will be broken as time passes. It's best to ignite the fuse and let these three peak existences go from small skirmishes to a big fight. Xing Hui immediately thought of the many resources he'd obtained from the Burning Blood ruler's chaotic universe. It wouldn't be easy for anyone else to stir up a storm, but that wasn't necessarily the case for Xing Hui. Right now, Lord Bloodburn's attention was focused on the Lord of Chaos, Lord of Time, and Lord of Gods. He simply didn't have the time to pay attention to every corner of the Chaosverse. He could rely on the resources he had acquired from Lord Bloodburn's Chaosverse to cause the Lord of Gods, Lord of Time, and Lord of Chaos to kill each other. After all, while many people had come to attack Lord Bloodburn on the orders of the Lord of Gods, Lord of Time, and Lord of Chaos, the majority of them had come to plunder resources. Moreover, these resources came from the Burning Blood ruler's chaotic universe and wouldn't cause any trouble. Even if the Burning Blood ruler set his sights on him one day, the Burning Blood ruler wouldn't ruin his plans. Instead, he'd add fuel to the fire and make the masters of time, and chaos fight each other to find a way to survive amidst the chaos. Time flowed by. Tsing Hui's plan was executed step by step. After becoming a chaotic being, the unit of measurement of years was no longer usable. Even the smallest of plans would take decades, centuries, or even centuries to complete. Under Qing Su's scheme, the competition between the Master of Gods, the Master of Time, and the Master of Chaos over the various cultivation resources became more and more intense. There were already signs of supreme experts from both sides dying. On a certain day, 300 years later, the Master of Gods couldn't hold back and sent a clone to intervene in the battle between his ultimate god subordinates and one of the Master of Chaos subordinates. The Master of Chaos was already displeased that the Master of Gods and Time had interfered in the affairs of his chaotic universe. Now that the Master of Gods had dared to send a clone to intervene in the battle, the Master of Chaos was enraged and immediately sent a main combat clone. Not only did the clone annihilate the Master of Gods, but it also annihilated a series of ultimate gods and high gods that the Master of Chaos wanted to protect. This main combat clone was even more powerful than the Qilin progenitor. This action undoubtedly displeased the Master of Gods. As a result, the battle that followed became more and more intense. Amidst this civil war that was gradually becoming irreconcilable, the many evil gods that were originally wandering outside finally approached after more than 600 years of traveling. For a time, one after another, powerful wills broke through the chaotic void and descended upon the Master of Burning Blood's chaotic universe, causing the Master of Burning Blood's chaotic universe to become even more chaotic. Some of the top lifeforms among them had some friendship with the Master of Burning Blood. Previously, they naturally didn't have the courage to face the wrath of the Master of Chaos, Master of Gods, and Master of Time alone. However, when most of the evil gods rushed over and the Master of Chaos, Master of Gods, and Master of Time weren't as united as before, this gave them an opportunity to take advantage of. For a time, the Master of Gods, Master of Chaos, and Master of Time were engaged in a great battle with each other. The Master of Gods, Master of Chaos, and Master of Time were constantly engaged in a great battle with the evil gods that were close to them. These evil gods would also erupt into internal strife due to their different demands for benefits. The situation was extremely chaotic at this moment. With the help of this chaos, Tsing Hui finally managed to get close to the Master of Time again. Although the Master of Time would occasionally draw out his energy to strike him, as a chaotic life form, he had a unique advantage in terms of resistance to attacks as he possessed the ability to fission. It's finally all a mess. Tsing Hui's clone that was outside the Oracle civilization heaved a sigh of relief. Then, we've finally reached the most crucial step. Whether we succeed or not depends on this moment. At this moment, his main body was already close to the Master of Time. Moreover, as his main body slightly adjusted his position, a chaotic universe that was only 100 light-years in diameter but was condensed from 100,000 light-years and a large amount of immortal matter was split from his main body. Then, it began to accelerate in the chaotic void with the help of chaos energy and many other external factors. If someone were to carefully judge the attack trajectory of Tsing Hui's main body at this moment, they would realize that not only would the attack hit the Master of Time, but it would also directly penetrate the Master of Time's body due to the enormous amount of energy and immortal matter contained in it. Then, the attack would continue to fly toward the chaotic universe where the Master of Burning Blood was and eventually stop in the chaotic universe due to the exhaustion of power. Chapter 976. Due to the great distance, Tsing Hui's attack only managed to hit the Time King after traveling for 34 years. As a creation life form, the Time King had the ability to dodge this attack. However, the size of this split chaotic universe was too small, so the attack from a 100 light-year chaotic universe was unable to cause any significant damage to the Time King. At this moment, the Time King's main body was entangled with the Time King's universe in order to snatch the burning Blood King that the Time King had swallowed. In addition, most of his attention was focused on the Time King and the evil gods outside, so he had no time to deal with this attack that would not cause any damage. He allowed the attack to break through his body, and the remaining force swept toward the interior of the chaotic universe, reducing all the civilizations and stars it encountered along the way to nothingness. Xing Hui was pleasantly surprised by this outcome. That's great. The clone outside the Divine Yen civilization estimated that the chaotic universe would pass by the Divine Yen civilization in a day's time. Thus, he no longer held back and directly charged toward the Divine Yen civilization. With my main body as support, I'd like to see if the trap that the Time King set up to lure out the holder of the creation's sacred jade will be able to trap me. In order to ensure that the operation was foolproof, he directly mobilized the noble clone that was lurking in the Divine Yen civilization and paralyzed most of the detectors. As a result, when he stepped into the Divine Yen civilization, it could be said that he was driving straight in without attracting anyone's attention. However, the Divine Yen civilization obviously attached great importance to the detectors. When they noticed that a straight line of detectors had malfunctioned, they naturally felt that something was amiss. Even though the clone that was lurking in the upper echelons of the Divine Yen civilization had obstructed them and even killed several high-ranking military officials, when Xing Hui stepped into the Divine Yen civilization's capital star system, a huge fleet still rose from the capital star system. Space flagships and even dimensional battleships charged toward Xing Hui's powerful clone. I have to be quick. If the Time King has really left a spy here, he'll soon realize what's going on. Xing Hui looked at the many space flagships and more than a dozen dimensional battleships that were equivalent to great divine masters that were prepared to intercept them. He did not hesitate to expose his high-ranking avatar and let this avatar rush into the central optical supercomputer on the spot, destroying the central optical supercomputer that controlled the operation of all the war machines in the Divine Yen civilization. Without the control of the central optical supercomputer, the computing power of the dozen-dimensional battleships plummeted, and the combat power that they could unleash also plummeted. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Xing Hui's strongest avatar didn't fight with them at all. With a dimensional leap, he rushed into the capital planet of the Divine Yen civilization and headed toward a fortress hidden in the periphery of the capital planet. However, before he could reach the fortress, a torrent of data had already spread out from the fortress. These originally illusory existences formed a strong impact on the vitality magnetic field at this moment. If it were an ordinary great divine master, their magnetic field would be distorted by this special attack that interfered with the vitality magnetic field, and they might even die. However, to Xing Hui, whose life essence was equivalent to a true chaotic life form, this level of attack was completely within the scope of what he could withstand. This torrent of information that can affect the vitality magnetic field of a great divine master and cause the vitality magnetic field of an ordinary great divine master to collapse. It must be the descent of the Time King's avatar. As expected, the Time King was fully prepared and didn't hesitate to leave an avatar in the Divine Yen civilization at all times. With this avatar, it's equivalent to him personally keeping an eye on the creation divine jade fragment. It's no wonder he was so assured to leave the creation divine jade in the Divine Yen civilization and not worry about going for wool and coming home shorn. Xing Hui immediately understood the situation before him. The torrent of information that had spread out almost instantly developed into an enormous amount of computing power that surpassed the computing power of an entire level 21 civilization. All of this computing power surged into a mecha-like war machine that was originally hidden in the Divine Yen civilization. This war machine that resembled a mecha-like war machine was only about 10,000 kilometers long, which was equivalent to an ordinary planet. However, what was suffocating was that this war machine that resembled a mecha-like war machine was actually completely made of immortal matter. It should be known that the immortal matter's sturdiness was even greater than that of the creation material used to create the creation divine weapon. Other than 6th-level Chaos Realm experts who barely grasped a trace of the power of time, no one else had the ability to change the characteristics of the immortal matter. Even peak 6th-level Chaos Realm existences had extremely limited changes to the immortal matter. In other words, if the Time King placed the creation divine jade fragment in this mecha-like war machine, other than the Master of Gods and Master of Chaos who were on the same level as him, even peak 5th-level Chaos Realm existences like the Burning Blood Master could only use immortal matter to destroy it. They wouldn't be able to take the creation divine jade fragment away from the Time King. With this mecha-like war machine that was made of immortal matter, the Time King was already in an invincible position. And to be able to control a mecha-like war machine made of immortal matter. Main Battle Avatar. The Time King had definitely left a main battle avatar here. Furthermore, with the importance of the immortal mecha-like war machine and the creation divine jade fragment, it was highly possible that this was the strongest main battle avatar. Let me see. Is this the big fish that I want to catch? The mecha-like war machine that was made of immortal matter sent out a faint message. Then, the immortal mecha-like war machine moved slightly and directly grabbed at Xing Hui's avatar. Under its grab, the time and space laws seemed to be unable to leave any traces on its body. Space. What was space? Only time could measure the concept of space. In a space without any reference, it would take 15 minutes to walk 1,000 meters. Because of the concept of 15 minutes, he would be able to understand the length of 1,000 meters. If the concept of 15 minutes was eliminated, even if he crossed 1,000 meters in an instant, to an outsider without any reference, they wouldn't be able to determine whether he had moved or not. This was the power of time. In the face of time, space didn't exist. It was precisely because of this characteristic that the moment the Time King controlled the immortal mecha to grab it, the attack had already landed on Qing Su's clone who still had some status in the God Yen civilization. There was no process. It was as though Xing Hui's avatar had been grabbed by the immortal mecha-like war machine controlled by the Time King. In the face of such power, even if this avatar had the combat power of a great god, it still had no power to resist. No. Even if his original body came, unless he was far enough away or had a huge body that was difficult to destroy, he still wouldn't have any power to resist, let alone a great god avatar. This was the terror of a great 6th-level Chaos Realm existence. It was far more terrifying than any life form below the 5th level of Chaos Realm could resist. The immortal mecha-like war machine grabbed Xing Hui's avatar and then, squeezed hard. Ping! The avatar shattered. The divine consciousness that was mixed in the avatar didn't have time to self-destruct. In the next moment, Xing Hui's divine consciousness landed in the Time King's hands, and various memories kept surging in this divine consciousness. No. Not memories. Instead, it was the life experience of this avatar and the traces that time had left on him. These traces replayed from Xing Hui's identity as a member of the Cabinet Council. First, it replayed from when he became a Star System Consul. Then, it replayed from when he obtained excellent results in the military academy. Then, it replayed from when he was reborn in a marquis family. Finally, it replayed from when Xing Hui's original body, the original body that was so close to the Time King that he only needed to use his energy to deal with. There were no secrets. There were no secrets. From when Xing Hui sensed the Time King's attack, to when his avatar was captured alive by the Time King, to when the Time King used the time reversal method to record and read all the traces of time on his body, the entire process happened in an instant. It was so short that his powerful avatar didn't even have time to launch a weak attack on the immortal mecha-like war machine. Is this your original body? A chaotic life form? Let me see what secrets you're hiding in your body. Let me see if what I want is in your body. The Time King's consciousness said faintly. Through the divine consciousness of Xing Hui's avatar, he traced back to Tsing Hui's original body. After locking onto the location and identity of Tsing Hui's original body, he didn't stop there. In the next moment, many information about his original body was replayed again. The Time King is really tyrannical to this extent. Tsing Hui watched as all the secrets on his body were replayed bit by the Time King through the traces of time. He felt a chill in his heart. At this moment, he suddenly realized that all his schemes were laughable and insignificant in front of the Time King, who was at the 6th tier of the chaotic realm and was only one step away from the ultimate eternity. The forms of power that the Time King, the Master of Gods, and the Master of Chaos had mastered were simply beyond his imagination. This was especially so for the Time King, who was originally proficient in the space-time Tao. In front of the power of time, even if he was a chaotic life form, as long as he hadn't reached the 5th tier of the chaotic realm, there were no secrets to speak of. The Time King only needed a glance to see through him inside out. Buzz buzz. Just as Tsing Hui was vaguely despairing and thought that everything about him was going to be exposed in front of the Time King, that all his plans would be seen through by the Time King, and that even his original body, which was near the Time King, would become the Time King's prey, a strong light suddenly illuminated all the scenes that were replayed continuously in the Time King's hands, causing the information that was being replayed by the Time King to turn white. This change surprised the Time King a little. Tsing Hui, who originally thought that it was impossible for him to turn the tables, shuddered when he saw the light. It was that unknown magic lamp. It was that unknown magic lamp that he had obtained from the Master of Red Hell, that contained the aura of eternity. The light from that magic lamp interfered with the Time King's replaying of time. Chapter 977. What's that? It has the charm of time. Is it an eternal artifact? The Time King, who was controlling the immortal mecha, was curious. At this moment, the compressed chaos verse that was 100 light-years in diameter that his main body had sent out from the Green Ruins 34 years ago finally pierced through and arrived outside the Divine Yen civilization. All the civilizations along the way, regardless of whether they were level 10, level 15, level 20, or level 21, were crushed into nothingness by this chaotic universe attack that was mixed with immortal matter. The Divine Yen civilization was no exception. Even though the Time King had a mecha made of immortal matter, he could only partially change the form of immortal matter even though he was a peak 6th tier Chaos Realm being. In addition, Tsing Hui's attack was also mixed with immortal matter. To prevent the mecha from being destroyed and the creation jade fragment in his body being shaken, the Time King's immortal mecha avatar chose to avoid it. As for the outcome of the Divine Yen civilization if they avoided it, that was not within the scope of his consideration at all. The purpose of nurturing the Divine Yen civilization was to catch a big fish. Now that the big fish had taken the bait, there was naturally no need to care about the Divine Yen civilization's life and death. Final struggle, when the Time King's clone controlled the immortal mecha to avoid the super long-range attack from Tsing Hui's main body, the Time King's main body, which was entangled with the Master of Chaos and the Master of Gods, also moved slightly. The next moment, at least 1/3 of his power was separated to form a terrifying nebula that covered the void and pierced through the chaos. It went straight for Tsing Hui's main body, who was cruising nearby. At such a close distance and with the speed of a 6th tier Chaos Realm being, Tsing Hui's main body had no chance of escaping at all. He would definitely be captured by the Time King. It's too close. I can't escape. Tsing Hui's heart turned cold. Although he had become a chaos life form and had been constantly splitting in the past few thousand years, his body was still lacking compared to other chaos life forms of the same level. If he was captured by the Time King, it wouldn't take 1,000 years, but a few hundred years, for his chaos universe to be completely destroyed by the Time King. Then, the Time King would kill him and plunder everything he had. Furthermore, the speed of a chaotic being could not compare to that of a creation being. Facing a 6th tier creation being like the Time King, no matter how hard he tried, he could not think of a way to escape. Becoming the Time King's prey seemed to be the only outcome. No. According to the images from time, I will face the siege of the Lord of Time, the Lord of Gods, the Lord of Chaos, and even dozens of chaos beings and creation beings. It is obvious that being defeated by the Lord of Time is not my final destiny. Xing Hui forcefully pulled himself together and looked at the Lord of Time in front of him. His mind was filled with thoughts. While his thoughts were in turmoil, the immortal substances in his chaos universe had already mixed with the split chaos universe and blasted towards the nebula that the Time King had separated. It covered the sky and covered the sun, trying in vain to stop the erosion of this nebula. Is there any use? You don't understand the power of a top creation being, a thought that contained a powerful pressure spread out. The next moment, the nebula in front of Xing Hui suddenly became thinner, and a few insignificant holes appeared in it. Before Xing Hui could react, the other party had used the ability to accelerate time and space. This nebula had completely covered him and began to seal his chaos universe as the center, imprisoning him in this nebula. Once he was completely imprisoned in the creation universe of the Time King, his death would only be a matter of time. There must be a way. Xing Hui's eyes sparkled. Behind him, the Time King had already controlled the power of his creation universe to constantly seal off his escape route. There was no way for him to break through and escape. The only way out was right in front of him. The Time King could use the method of accelerating time and space to bypass the process of attacking and directly cause damage, but this did not mean that this process did not exist. From the thinning of the nebula in front of him and the many holes that had appeared, it could be seen that the large amount of immortal substances he had blasted out from his chaos universe had also caused damage to the nebula in the process of accelerating time and space. It was just that this process had not been shown. Since there were holes in the nebula, this naturally gave him a chance to escape from this nebula. Even if, the direction in which he broke through this nebula would only get closer and closer to the Time King. Out! Xing Hui growled, and the immortal substances in his chaos universe blasted out as if they were free. His immortal substances all came from the Burning Blood King. Although the Burning Blood King was only a fifth-tier chaos life form and was slightly inferior to the Master of Chaos, Master of Gods, and Time King, from the fact that he had killed the Master of Red Hell 3 million years ago, this great existence had lived for an unknown number of years and had collected countless immortal substances in his lifetime. Now, all these immortal substances were benefiting Xing Hui for free, and they were being thrown out by Xing Hui when he was in a life and death situation. There were so many of them that even the Time King was a little stunned when he saw them. He used time acceleration to skip the attack process, but just like fast-forwarding in a movie, it did not mean that the scene did not exist. In other words, even if he used time acceleration to trap Xing Hui, these immortal substances were still a hurdle that he could not overcome. On the contrary, as time acceleration did not allow him to precisely control every part of his power, he could not even dodge these immortal substances even if he wanted to. He's obviously a new chaos life form, where did he get so many immortal substances? The Time King was a little puzzled and had to slow down the pressure on Xing Hui. At the same time, he completely blocked off Xing Hui's escape route, so as to prevent Xing Hui from escaping before he died. When the Time King's attack slowed down slightly, Xing Hui's original body quickly rushed toward the Time King. After 10 years of attacks, his chaos universe, which had been eroded by nearly 1/10 of the Time King's creation universe, suddenly collided with the Time King's creation universe. For a moment, the collision between universes caused countless stars to shatter, countless life forms to collapse, and countless planes to turn into nothingness. However, as Xing Hui was a new creation life form, there were not many life forms in the planes that he split off. Although 2/3 of the plane's mass was destroyed in the process of collision, there were not many life forms that actually died. On the other hand, the Time King. Although the collision between the Chaos Universe and the Creation Universe was not like a comet hitting Earth, it was not far off. In such a short time of collision, at least dozens of level 21 civilizations were annihilated. As for level 20, level 19, and level 19 civilizations, as well as those below level 19, were too many to count. It was difficult to measure with numbers. Do you want to drag me down with you before you die? Or do you want to carry out infinite splitting in my creation universe? Given your current size, I'll be able to completely erode and destroy your chaos verse in 300 years, or even 600 years. Even if you split at full speed in 600 years, how much of your chaos verse will you be able to split into? In the end, your splitting speed will not be able to keep up with my annihilation speed and you will be killed by me. Apart from causing me some trouble and consuming some of my energy and time, you will not be able to cause any substantial harm to me. Why bother? You might as well obediently let me erode you and become one with me, becoming a part of my pursuit of the ultimate eternal power in the future. The Time Lord's consciousness continued to wander around the periphery of Tsing Hui's chaos universe in an attempt to break Tsing Hui's fighting spirit. However, Tsing Hui did not say a word, as if he did not feel that his chaos universe was rapidly being eroded. While he tried his best to accelerate the splitting speed to strengthen his resistance to erosion, he constantly sacrificed immortal substance to attack the Time Lord. While he struggled with all his might, he also went deep into the Time Lord's territory and constantly approached his target. However, this abnormality of Tsing Hui's lasted for a moment, and the Time Lord soon noticed it. The Time Lord originally thought that Tsing Hui had entered his chaos universe to cause him some trouble before his death by splitting infinitely. However, when Tsing Hui did not use the method of splitting infinitely and was still moving forward at full speed, it immediately attracted the Time Lord's attention. With a little calculation, he immediately calculated the direction in front of Tsing Hui. Where my immortal mecha is? Your target, is that piece of divine jade? The Time Lord understood Tsing Hui's plan, and the immortal mecha turned around without hesitation and flew deeper into the Time Lord's territory. What a pity. I won't let you succeed. Is that so? Tsing Hui looked at the fortune jade fragment that was getting closer and closer to him with a cold smile. I can't catch up to the fortune jade fragment you took away with your immortal mecha. So, why don't I make it come back on its own? As soon as he finished speaking, Tsing Hui's chaos universe suddenly changed. His figure was projected from the most central plane of the chaos universe, and on him, a piece of fortune jade that was missing a small corner that was almost completely repaired appeared. It immediately resonated strongly with the piece of fortune jade that the Time Lord had placed in his immortal mecha. With a series of vibrations, the fortune jade fragment broke through the Time Lord's immortal mecha and whizzed toward Tsing Hui. The supreme treasure of the immortal Tao civilization is in your hands. Its owner is not the burning blood lord. The sudden change shocked even the Time Lord. His consciousness was filled with pleasant surprise. Ha, good. Good. Poor chaos creature, thank you for delivering this supreme treasure of the immortal Tao civilization to me. From today onwards, this supreme treasure belongs to me. In order to repay you, I will give you a quick death. As he spoke, a terrifying force surged toward the fortune jade fragment that was flying toward Tsing Hui as well as Tsing Hui's chaos universe. It actually slowed down the fortune jade fragment's flight and made it difficult for it to approach Tsing Hui. At the same time, an attack far more terrifying than before erupted from the Time Lord's chaos universe. Countless amounts of immortal matter were mobilized from every corner of the creation universe and began to bombard Tsing Hui's chaos universe with indiscriminate bombardment. At this rate, it would take at most 100 years for Tsing Hui's chaos universe to be completely destroyed. Chapter 978. You want to use all your strength to kill me now? Don't you think it's too late? Ching Su's gaze landed on the piece of fortune jade that the Time King had frozen in place right before him. He suddenly sucked in a deep breath, and in the next moment, the barriers of the entire chaotic universe opened up. Under the trembling of the fortune jade and the laws around it, ripples spread out extremely quickly, spreading wildly in all directions. Hum hum. The moment the ripples spread out, they fused with the immortal Tao civilization that filled the domains of the Time Lord, the Master of Gods, and the Master of Chaos. The laws of the immortal Tao civilization that had long since lost their power due to various factors seemed to be injected with new energy. They emitted waves of profound energy and rapidly shot towards Tsing Hui's chaos verse, pouring into Tsing Hui's chaos verse in the blink of an eye. The essence of Tsing Hui's chaos verse gradually changed as the power of the laws poured in. Strands of the aura of eternity escaped from the chaos verse and absorbed the power of the chaos verse itself, causing the power of the chaos verse to move in the direction of eternity. Moreover, even though every single strand of the power of laws was extremely weak, or even weak and incomplete, the fortune jade naturally produced strands of profound light when they were poured into the chaotic universe of green ruins, illuminating the incomplete power of laws and mending them one by one. The mended laws were on a completely different level from the fragmented ones, and they even increased the size of Tsing Hui's chaos verse. Even though the mended power of laws was nothing compared to the majestic size of the chaos beings, there were just too many of them. How many fragmented laws were there in the entire broken immortal Tao civilization? Too many to count. If all the power of laws were gathered and repaired, it would not be much weaker than a 6th-level chaos realm creation life form. The ripples from the fortune jade resonated with all of the law fragments at the same time and were bestowed with power. They transformed into rays of light that shot into Tsing Hui's chaos verse and were reborn in Tsing Hui's chaos verse, regaining a trace of its former glory. Under the innumerable streams of light that had comprehended laws, Qing Su's chaotic universe actually managed to block the Time King's attacks. Coupled with the fact that Qing Su had used this time to toss out all the eternal items that the Lord of Burning Blood had accumulated over countless years to stop the Time King, the rate at which his chaotic universe was being destroyed and strengthened seemed to have reached a stalemate. Moreover, it was foreseeable that as time passed, more and more streams of laws would be activated, awakened, and bestowed with power by the fortune jade before being cast into the Green Ruins chaos verse. The Green Ruins chaos verse would definitely grow stronger and stronger until it recovered to the peak of the immortal Tao civilization. The tinder of the immortal Tao civilization. The Time Lord, who had been brimming with confidence and unworried about any mishaps, grew solemn. As the ripples from the fortune jade spread out, more and more laws were activated. These fragmented laws of the immortal Tao civilization faintly repelled his chaos verse, as if trying to push him out of the immortal Tao civilization. Humph. So what if you can reform the immortal Tao civilization and reignite its tinder? Back when the immortal Tao civilization was at its peak, we broke through it in one fell swoop. Now, even if the entire immortal Tao civilization's fragmented power is reawakened, it'll only be equivalent to 1/10 of its peak state. Do you think you can do anything to me with this kind of ability? Suppress. As the Time Lord growled, his chaos verse began to churn rapidly. A power far more majestic than the one that ruled his original domain surged out of his chaos verse like a tsunami. Tsing Hui's chaos verse, which had barely withstood his attacks, was hit by this power. Like a fragile building caught in a tsunami, it was on the verge of collapse. But just as Tsing Hui was about to collapse after igniting the tinder of the immortal Tao civilization, a vast and majestic power abruptly blasted into the Time Lord's chaos verse. At the same time, a divine consciousness exuding a terrifying aura wantonly rampaged through the Time Lord's chaos verse. Time Lord, why would the tinder of the immortal Tao civilization be ignited in your chaos verse? Could it be that the Burning Blood Lord is just a pawn of yours? You're just trying to distract us so that you have the time to ignite the tinder of the immortal Tao civilization when we're least prepared, so that you can pry into the secrets of eternity from the tinder? If you think you can shake us off like this, then you're gravely mistaken. I suffered a loss at your hands last time. Do you think I won't have a backup plan this time? I've long been on guard against your possible schemes. Tear it apart. Rumble. Amidst the violent tremors, the chaos verse, which was more than 100 trillion light-years in size, seemed to explode. All of its energy erupted in an instant, and the Time Lord's Chaos Verse was brazenly torn apart by this terrifying explosive power that was equivalent to the self-destruction of a fourth-level Chaos creature. A huge gap appeared in the firmament of the Time Lord's Chaos Verse. The Lord of Chaos. This was an ambush attack that the Lord of Chaos had set up long ago. Only the Lord of Chaos had such great power and astonishing courage to instantly ignite the power of more than 100 trillion Chaos Verses. Lord of Chaos. You're crazy. The Time Lord roared furiously in the face of such a ferocious attack. But, this was just the beginning. When the Lord of Chaos launched his backup plan and tore a huge gap in the Time Lord's Chaos Verse, waves of vast auras and tyrannical consciousnesses swiftly entered through the gap and swept through the Time Lord's Chaos Verse. What's going on? I seem to have sensed the aura of the immortal Tao civilization just now. The immortal Tao civilization's inheritance treasure was left in the Time Lord's Chaos Verse. The Burning Blood Lord doesn't have the supreme treasure of the immortal Tao civilization's inheritance. Could it be that the Time Lord is behind all of this? The Time Lord wants to monopolize the secrets of eternity. We've destroyed the entire immortal Tao civilization and tried everything, but the only thing we haven't gotten is this treasure called the Chaos Verse Jade. Then, the aura of eternity we sense back then must be hidden in this treasure. Whoever obtains this treasure may be able to comprehend eternity and reach the ultimate level. As the consciousnesses descended, waves of power that were far more powerful than Xing Hui could withstand attempted to enter the Time Lord's Chaos Verse through the gap. Some of the top existences who were strong enough and didn't fear the Time Lord were further away from the gap that the Lord of Chaos had torn open. They even launched an attack on the Time Lord's Chaos Verse without hesitation. The Lord of Chaos could instantly tear the Time Lord's Chaos Verse apart by launching a secret attack. They could do the same. It would just take more effort and time. In an instant, the Time Lord, who had been in high spirits and had beaten Xing Hui to the point where he could barely hold on, was attacked by countless people. Even as a supreme existence at the sixth tier of the Chaos Realm, he was completely stunned by the combined attacks of the Lord of Chaos, the Master of Gods, and many evil gods. He couldn't spare much energy to completely kill Xing Hui. This can't go on. The Time Lord immediately understood his situation. He wasn't the Lord of Chaos and couldn't withstand the attacks of so many creation and chaos beings. If this continued, he would definitely be severely injured. He immediately sent a message to the Master of Chaos and Master of Gods, "Your Majesties, there are many evil gods roaming the outside world right now, and they're eyeing us covetously. If we start a war right now, it's very likely that these creatures of creation and chaos will benefit from it. Instead of that happening, why don't we clear out the battlefield first, drive them away, and kill them all? At that time, the three of us can study that precious treasure called the Fortune Jade together. It's better than letting it fall into the hands of those creatures of creation and chaos. Time Lord, do you think I'll fall for your tricks so easily? If I hadn't sensed the aura of the tinder of the immortal Tao civilization on this chaos being, I wouldn't have known that my Chaos Verse Jade had fallen into your hands." A low, muffled voice emanated from his divine consciousness, mixed with an extremely strong sense of oppression. This was the Lord of Chaos. "Your Majesty, I can only tell you that this is a misunderstanding. You should be able to tell that the one who stole your Chaos Verse Jade is this new chaos being. I only forced him to use the Chaos Verse Jade when I killed him in an attempt to ignite the tinder of the immortal Tao civilization and borrow its power to break through to the fifth tier of the Chaos Realm. This has nothing to do with me. If you want me to trust you, that's fine. You have to bring this new Chaos life form into my Chaos Verse. Only if he stays in my Chaos Verse will I work with you again to drive away these wandering Chaos life forms and creation life forms." "Impossible." The Time Lord said without hesitation, "Your Majesty, we all know how powerful you are. If we control this new Chaos life form, you can still contact one of us and take him away by force. But if this new Chaos life form enters your Chaos Verse and you don't allow us to meditate with you, we won't be able to do anything to you. This new chaos life form can only be controlled by me and the Lord of the Gods. You're right, Time Lord. But since you can't come to an agreement with the Lord of Chaos, you might as well hand this new chaos being over to me. When the time comes. The Lord of Gods intervened. But before the Lord of Gods could finish, the Lord of Chaos, who couldn't achieve his goal, attacked in a rage. No one can stop what I, the Lord of Chaos, want. Since you're not willing, we'll just have to rely on our own methods. The next moment, a majestic force so enormous that it seemed capable of bursting the Time Lord's Chaos-verse apart surged into the Time Lord's Chaos-verse through the crack the Lord of Chaos had torn open. Faced with a supreme treasure that most likely contained the mysteries of eternity, the three supreme existences no longer had their previous harmony. A full-blown war broke out. Chapter 979. I've used up all my trump cards, and all schemes are useless in the face of absolute power. Tsing Hui felt a deep sense of helplessness when he sensed the terrifying power that the Lord of Time had used to imprison him. Though he had become a being of chaos and was infinitely more powerful than the great masters or even the strongest of the great masters, the gap between him and the Lord of Time, who stood at the peak of the world and was second only to the ultimate realm, was still immeasurably huge. He had no other choice but to take advantage of the Lord of Time's battle with the Lord of Chaos and Master of Pantheon to absorb as much power from the broken immortal Tao civilization as possible to strengthen himself. Just as Tsing Hui was using the Fortune Jade to continuously activate the law fragments of the immortal Tao civilization to strengthen himself and perfect his chaotic universe, a slight change occurred in the void of the chaos plane at the core of his universe. Tsing Hui's heart skipped a beat as he stared at the mysterious and indescribable illusory river of stars in the chaos plane. The River of Time. The River of Time. This is the River of Time. The immortal Tao civilization was a world created by the legendary plate of the primogenitor who'd stepped into the ultimate realm of eternity. Because this world originated from an ultimate existence like the plate of the primogenitor who'd stepped into eternity, the River of Time had always appeared in the immortal Tao civilization. It was said that even great masters who cultivated special techniques or came from special backgrounds could come into contact with the River of Time and use its power to achieve things that ordinary people couldn't. However, as the immortal Tao civilization's world crumbled, the River of Time disappeared as well. Even sixth-level Chaos Realm supreme existences such as the Master of Chaos, Master of Time, and Master of Gods couldn't capture the traces of the River of Time. Only the Heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures, who had been passed down from the immortal Tao civilization, could confirm the existence of the River of Time by relying on the Qingping sword spirit that seemed to exist in the River of Time. And now, the River of Time that should have disappeared a long time ago had actually appeared the moment Tsing Hui rebuilt the immortal Tao civilization world. It had appeared once again. Even if what he showed before Qing Su right now was only the tip of the iceberg, compared to the vastness and mysteriousness of the true River of Time, he was no longer completely helpless against the Lord of Time, the Master of Gods, and the Lord of Primal Chaos. Whoosh! Tsing Hui's consciousness instantly traversed the endless void and contacted a clone next to the Lord of Plentiful Treasures in the soaring Jade Dragon. For safety's sake, Qing Su had used the laws of fortune to leave behind a large number of clones in the territories of the Lord of Time and Lord of Chaos. Now, these clones had finally come in handy. At the very least, he would be able to receive news without any lag. Lord of Heaven, my body is now in danger. I need your help. Gather everyone who can decipher the information in the River of Time. In addition, take that crystal ball and reflect the image in the River of Time. Tsing Hui's Tsing Hui Tsing. Decipher the River of Time's information. The Lord of Plentiful Treasures was slightly startled. The River of Time's information is very vague and obscure. Although we've formed a team to decipher the River of Time's information, we've only been able to decipher 1 in 10,000 images. It's all down to luck, that was in the past. Get them to take their positions immediately. All right. Seeing Tsing Hui's serious expression, the Lord of Plentiful Treasures spread his consciousness and quickly issued orders. At the same time, he said, "You just said that your true body is in danger. Is it all right? We also felt the Lord of Chaos's Tsing Hui's body just now, but we don't know what's going on. The situation is a little bad," Tsing Hui said in a low voice. However, he didn't explain to the Lord of Plentiful Treasures and the others how bad it was, because there was no point in telling them. "Then let's move quickly," the Lord of Plentiful Treasures said, and led Tsing Hui to a palace that specialized in processing information from the River of Time. When he arrived, there was already an immortal emperor, a dozen immortal lords, and hundreds of true immortals waiting here. Lord of Heaven. Seeing Tsing Hui and the Lord of Plentiful Treasures, these people hurriedly bowed respectfully. "There's no time to lose. I'll send you what I saw and received now. You can convert it into images or information that we can understand." Tsing Hui nodded at the leader, the Fu Sang Immortal Emperor. Without any delay, he quickly sent what he saw in the River of Time to the Fu Sang Immortal Emperor. After receiving the information from Tsing Hui, the Fu Sang Immortal Emperor was slightly stunned. Then, he said in disbelief, the information this time is very clear. Can you analyze it?" "Very soon. Give me 2 to 3 years. As the Fu Sang Immortal Emperor spoke, he quickly called over a dozen immortal lords and hundreds of true immortals to get busy. 2 to 3 years. The delay is too long. Lord of Plentiful Treasures, I need you to gather all the immortal emperors, immortal lords, and true immortals who have studied the River of Time. You can't even let the false immortals go. It's best if you can figure out what the information is within a day or even an hour after receiving the information." After saying that, Tsing Hui paused for a moment and sent a voice transmission, "If you can't do it, I might die." Even though the Lord of Plentiful Treasures knew the seriousness of this matter, he never expected it to be this serious. Tsing Hui was currently the only saint of their immortal Tao civilization. He carried the flame of their civilization, and at this moment, he could faintly guess that Tsing Hui had collected almost all of the fortune jades on him. Otherwise, there was no way to explain why the chaotic universe he created could resonate with the immortal Tao civilization. If Tsing Hui died at this time, if a saint of the immortal Tao civilization died, the entire immortal Tao civilization would fall into darkness. Moreover, the fortune jades that represented the only hope of their civilization would fall into the hands of the Master of Gods, the Master of Time, or the Master of Chaos. When that happened, their immortal Tao civilization would never be able to rise again. At this thought, the Lord of Plentiful Treasures immediately said, "I'll gather all the cultivators who have studied the River of Time in the Jade Dragon soaring victorious sky. Even the immortal emperors, immortal lords, true immortals, and false immortals who don't know much about the River of Time can learn it. We'll do everything we can to decipher the information within a day." Tsing Hui nodded solemnly and sensed the state of his main body. The Master of Time is currently tied down by the Master of Chaos and the Master of Gods. He won't have enough strength or time to deal with me for the time being. It won't be difficult for me to hold on for tens of thousands of years, but if he does, I'll only be able to hold on for 300 years at most, even if I've been replenished with the power of laws from the immortal Tao civilization. Therefore, we have to be quick. While the Lord of Plentiful Treasures mobilized all the cultivators in the immortal Tao civilization to serve him, Tsing Hui's main body was constantly studying the River of Time. At the same time, he was doing his best to absorb the fragmented laws of the immortal Tao civilization, so much so that his resistance against the Master of Time's attacks was slightly reduced. It didn't matter if his Chaos Verse was completely destroyed, as long as he could preserve the Yorwild's realm. As he shifted his focus, the fragments of the laws of the immortal Tao civilization poured into his Chaos Verse faster and faster. More and more of them poured into his Chaos Verse as well. Gradually, As the ripples from the fortune jade continued to spread outwards, the power of laws in the nearby territories of the Lord of Chaos and Lord of Gods were drawn in and activated by the fortune jade and poured into the green ruins chaosverse. The more laws entered, the more complete the Urwild's realm was, and the more conspicuous the river of time would be, allowing him to observe more and more scenes from it. 6 years later. After the sleepless efforts of immortal Emperor Fusang and the others, the first piece of information Xing Hui had finally been deciphered. The Lord of Plentiful Treasures paled when he glanced at the recorded scenes. Saint, Xing Hui glanced at the scene in the information. It showed that the Master of Chaos had torn apart the Master of Time's Chaosverse and grabbed him along with the entire Chaosverse in his hand. Given the Master of Chaos' terrifying size, the Lord of Plentiful Treasure's true body was like a fragile tomato that could be crushed with just a little bit of force. Continue, the future isn't static. Hurry up and decipher it. Qin Su's face was ugly. At the same time, he moved his main body as much as he could, approaching the Lord of God's chaotic universe slightly. His series of changes had obviously affected the spacetime of the future. Not long after, immortal Emperor Fusang deciphered a new scene. Although it was still the Master of Chaos who had captured his true body, the figure of the Master of Gods had already appeared and was stopping the Master of Chaos. Xing Hui muttered to himself for a moment. His body didn't change, but his gaze fell on the latter half of the river of time and intercepted a message. A year later, this message was deciphered as well. Although Xing Hui's true body had fallen into the Master of Time's true body, the Master of Gods and the Master of Time had joined forces to besiege the Master of Chaos. There were also a large number of evil gods outside who were eyeing the Master of Chaos covetously. You need to hurry. Next, I'll find a way to escape from the Master of Time's attack. I want you to decipher the effects of my actions on the spacetime of the future and choose the best escape plan for me. Xing Hui said in a deep voice. This was the solution he came up with. Being able to see the river of time and the scenes of the future meant that any of his actions would be equivalent to knowing the outcome in advance. Knowing the outcome meant that he could endure countless failures. He refused to believe that there was no way to escape the covetous eyes of the Lord of Time, the Lord of Gods, the Lord of Chaos, and even the many evil gods. Chapter 980. The great battle between the Lord of Time, the Master of Gods, and the Lord of Chaos continued. All three of them were invincible existences who stood at the peak of the world. In the chaotic void, which was so vast that it was impossible to measure the distance, there were very few existences like them. This was especially true for the Lord of Chaos, who was even stronger than the Lord of Time and the Master of Gods. He'd reached the true peak that life forms in the realm of chaos and creation could reach, and had reached a point where there was no way for him to go any further. Even if it was a local battle between them, it wouldn't end in a few hundred or a few thousand years. If it was a full-scale battle, it would take at least hundreds of thousands or even millions of years before a victor could be decided. During this time, Xing Hui changed his train of thought countless times, constantly influencing the future with his actions to choose the best way to escape. Finally, one day, 200 years later, a complete escape route appeared in front of him. Saint, this method isn't appropriate, it could lead to endless danger, but it's our only way. But once you fall into the Lord of Chaos territory, it'll be very difficult for you to get out, no. Don't you understand one thing? The Lord of Chaos is the most powerful individual in the eyes of all chaos beings and creation beings. According to the information revealed in the River of Time, all creation beings and chaos beings would eventually go mad and attack the Lord of Chaos incessantly. Even if the Lord of Chaos split himself again in the River of Time and blocked all chaos beings and creation beings, he would still reveal his greatest weakness. That's right, the Lord of Chaos said with a smile. The Lord of Myriad Treasures thought of the scene he'd seen in the River of Time and didn't know how to respond. We can't afford to hesitate any longer. Alright, let's do it this way. If the plan goes well, I'm afraid I won't be able to return for a long time. During this time, all of you must hide well and don't fall to the Lord of Chaos' revenge. We understand. The Lord of Myriad Treasures nodded solemnly. Saint, you're now the hope in all of our hearts, bearing the spark of our immortal Tao civilization. No matter what, please take care of yourself. Of course, I'll be responsible for my own life. Qing Su smiled faintly. In the next moment, his colossal body trembled, rapidly moving towards the Lord of Chaos's chaotic universe. At the same time, his powerful soul sense directly communicated with the Lord of Chaos through the imperishable substance. Your Majesty, the great Lord of Chaos, you are the most powerful individual among all chaotic beings. Just like me, you belong to the category of chaotic beings. Moreover, I have lived, cultivated, and grown up in your territory since I was young, and I am a child of chaos myself. As a result, I am willing to offer this supreme treasure that carries the eternal secrets of the immortal path to you. Now, I only ask that you tear apart the universe of creation that the Lord of Time has suppressed between us, and I will directly enter your chaotic universe and seek your protection. The Lord of Chaos, whose power was intertwined with that of the Lord of Time and the Lord of Gods, immediately laughed heartily. Ha! You've made the right choice, little fellow. We're all life forms in the chaos, so it's only natural for us to share the good things. If you offer me this supreme treasure that contains the eternal mysteries, I'll surely destroy all of your opponents when I ascend to eternity one day. It's not impossible for me to help you restore the glory of the immortal Tao civilization one day. As soon as he finished speaking, his attack suddenly changed. A vast and majestic force of the universe split from his body and smashed into the Time Lord's universe of creation. Even though the Time Lord's universe of creation was much more solid than the universe of the Chaos beings, it couldn't withstand the Chaos Lord's advantage in numbers. As the Chaos Lord's universe of creation crashed into the Time Lord's universe of creation, the billions of stars and endless civilizations in the universe of creation were vaporized and reduced to ashes in the face of this force. All civilizations were reduced to nothingness in an instant, as if facing an apocalyptic calamity. In the war between life forms in the chaos and creation realms, the so-called powerful level 20 and level 21 civilizations were like the powerful medieval empires living on Earth. Perhaps their knights and legions could sweep across a continent, and their flags could be planted all over the mountains and rivers. However, when a solar storm erupted from the sun outside Earth, it didn't matter how powerful the empire was, how many armies they had, or how many people they had, in the face of such an apocalyptic calamity, everything was meaningless. Their only fate was to be reduced to nothingness. All right. Under the Lord of Chaos attack, the Lord of Time's restraining power on Tsing Hui abruptly decreased by a notch. After more than 200 years of teleportation, the straight-line distance between Tsing Hui and the Lord of Chaos had changed. If the Lord of Chaos launched an attack from this angle, not only would it tear apart the Lord of Time's universe of creation and open up a path for Tsing Hui to the Lord of Chaos universe, but more importantly, he would pass by the last piece of the creation jade fragment, and now. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Tsing Hui suddenly leaped forward, and his huge body approached the last piece of the creation jade fragment in an instant. At the same time, the mutual attraction between the creation jade fragments caused the last piece of the creation jade fragment to rapidly draw closer to him. When the Lord of Time reacted and wanted to once again control the power of the creation universe to surge into this void to suppress Tsing Hui again, the last piece of the creation jade had been completely swallowed into the body of the chaotic universe that Tsing Hui had transformed into. At this moment, the size of his chaotic universe was less than 1/5 of its heyday, and there was only a primitive dimension and a few subsidiary dimensions with living creatures left. Therefore, when the piece of the creation jade fragment entered his chaotic universe, it immediately entered the primitive dimension and merged with the main body of the creation jade that was manifested in the primitive dimension. Hum hum. The moment Tsing Hui finally completed the creation jade, a ripple far more powerful than before spread out in all directions at an unbelievable speed. Countless fragments of the immortal Tao civilization's power of laws were activated by this ripple, turning into even more dazzling laws of light that rushed into Tsing Hui's chaotic universe, making the immortal nature of his already small chaotic universe even more obvious. The sight of Tsing Hui swallowing the last piece of the creation jade and attracting even more laws of light to him naturally attracted the attention of the Lords of Chaos, Time, and Pantheon. The Time Lord's majestic voice reverberated throughout the 9 heavens and 10 lands. Lord of Chaos, do you really think this chaos being who carries the tinder of the immortal Tao civilization will willingly submit to you and contribute his strength? You're too naive. I believe that as long as he has enough strength, he will definitely struggle and escape. When that happens, the 3 of us will have nothing to gain. But very soon, Qing Su used his actions to express his loyalty to the Master of Chaos. Although his chaotic universe had obtained a large amount of power of laws and transformed it into the eternal characteristic and reached the threshold of the 5th level, he had no intention of fleeing at all. Instead, he charged towards the Master of Chaos chaotic universe wholeheartedly, as if he was willing to enter the Master of Chaos chaotic universe and rely on the Master of Chaos chaotic universe for protection. He seemed to be following the Master of Chaos chaotic universe blindly. Although the Lord of Chaos was a little suspicious, he didn't stop attacking the Time Lord when he saw Tsing Hui's insignificant size. Instead, he quickly extended his chaotic universe toward Tsing Hui. Given his size and strength, as long as he could absorb Tsing Hui's chaotic universe into his own chaotic universe, Tsing Hui would have no chance of escaping. Seeing that Tsing Hui seemed to have made up his mind to submit to the Lord of Chaos and was about to contribute the supreme treasure of the immortal Tao civilization that contained the mysteries of eternity to him, the Time Lord and Master of Gods couldn't sit still any longer. They had spent so much effort, and time on the mysteries of eternity in the immortal Tao civilization. Now that the supreme treasure that contained the mysteries of eternity was right in front of them, how could they just watch it slip away from their grasp? For a moment, the 2 supreme existences even reached a consensus with the wandering creation and chaos beings. They stopped fighting each other and each chose a direction to attack the Lord of Chaos with all their might. They were determined to prevent the Lord of Chaos from monopolizing the supreme treasure that contained the mysteries of eternity no matter what. You can't do anything to me. The Lord of Chaos growled as he was attacked by all the creation and chaos beings. His entire chaotic universe crumbled and shattered continuously. But as his chaotic universe crumbled and shattered, more chaotic universes were born. Division. Infinite division. This was the Lord of Chaos's most powerful killing move. Although Tsing Hui was also a chaos being and possessed the ability to divide infinitely, his base was only 10. Every time he divided, he would only reach 20. However, the Lord of Chaos's base was at least 100 million. Every time he divided, he would increase his base by 100 million. How could 100 million be compared to 10 be just a tiny bit of difference? Under such circumstances, the phenomenon of him splitting infinitely and still being blown apart did not appear on the Lord of Chaos at all. Moreover, his speed of splitting was slightly faster than the Lord of Time, the Lord of Gods, and even the 30-odd creations and chaos beings roaming outside. When Qing Su used 100 years to cross the distance from the Lord of Time's creation universe to the Lord of Chaos Chaosverse, the Lord of Chaos Chaosverse did not shrink. Instead, it endured the attacks of the creations and chaos beings and forcefully grew by 2 times. However, when a creation and chaos being divided infinitely, they would face a problem. Their thoughts would gradually become sluggish due to the division, and their control over their chaotic universe would greatly decrease. Due to his mind being affected by the tremendous mass, the Lord of Chaos could not spare enough energy to settle Qing Su down even though he was confident that Qing Su was already his when the latter entered his Chaosverse. He could not even think of a way to remove the Fortune Jade from Qing Su's Chaosverse. Instead, he sent Qing Su to the center of his Chaosverse first. The closer he was to the center, the more powerful his chaotic universe became. This way, Tsing Hui's chances of turning back and escaping became even slimmer. Perhaps because his chaotic universe had split too quickly and because he was under too much pressure from facing the attacks of the Time Lord, Master of Gods, and many other creation and chaos beings at the same time, he seemed to have overlooked, currently, within his body, he was suppressing, and the Lord of Bloodburn. Chapter 981. Burning Blood Lord. Despite being attacked by the Time King, King of Gods, Chaos Beings, and Creation Beings, as well as the Primal Chaos Lord's merciless attacks, Burning Blood Lord still managed to hold on. Even though his Primal Chaos universe didn't have any imperishable matter, he still managed to hold on by relying on the Primal Chaos Lord's ability to divide infinitely. That was why he hadn't been completely destroyed by the Primal Chaos Lord. Furthermore, because the Primal Chaos Lord had shifted his focus to the Time King, the barely surviving Burning Blood Lord had managed to recover a little. He was now much larger than Tsing Hui. At the very least, it wouldn't be a problem for him to hold on for another 800 to 900 years or even close to 1,000 years under the Primal Chaos Lord's attacks. This was the foundation of a veteran 5th-level Chaos Being, and Tsing Hui, a new Chaos Being, couldn't compare to him. Burning Blood Lord. Tsing Hui's divine sense vaguely transmitted to Burning Blood Lord's Primal Chaos universe. Upon hearing Tsing Hui's voice, a volcano of fury surged and swept up along Tsing Hui's divine sense. It was as though the Burning Blood Lord wanted nothing more than to burn his divine sense and his entire body to ashes. Bastard! You actually dare to appear in front of me after hurting me to this extent? I'll kill you. In his fury, Burning Blood Lord's Primal Chaos universe shook violently. He wanted to break free from the Primal Chaos Lord's restraints and crash into Tsing Hui's Primal Chaos universe. However, even though the Primal Chaos Master didn't have a high degree of confidence in himself, the fact that a massive being like the Burning Blood Lord was shaking so violently within his body naturally attracted the Primal Chaos Master's attention. He swept his divine sense over, and the entire Primal Chaos universe surged. In an instant, countless planes of the universe were embedded in the Burning Blood Lord's Primal Chaos universe before swiftly collapsing. When those planes collapsed, Lord Searing Blood's Chaos Verse would collapse along with them. The power of the collapsing planes would then be converted into a new source of power, and it wouldn't be long before the next collapse occurred. It constantly consumed Lord Searing Blood's Chaos Verse power, causing it to tremble violently. Lord Searing Blood had no choice but to withdraw all of his power and do his best to prevent the planes that had spawned from the Lord of Chaos from embedding themselves into his Chaos Verse and perishing together with it. Rumble. Intense rumbling spread out, and it completely covered up the furious roar of the Burning Blood God. Burning Blood Lord, it seems that you still don't understand the situation you're in. If this continues, the Lord of Chaos will soon be able to exhaust your Chaos Verse. At that time, even if you've lived for hundreds of millions of years, you still won't be able to escape the fate of death. Is this what you want? Tsing Hui waited for the Burning Blood Lord to become much more obedient under the attack of the Master of Chaos before transmitting his thoughts to him again. If it wasn't for you, how could I, the Burning Blood Lord, have fallen to such a state? The winner takes all. In truth, if it weren't for you constantly trying to scheme against me, why would I have done anything to you? As a chaotic life form who has lived for countless years, I believe that your rationality and wisdom shouldn't only be used in a battle of vital energy. Now, the real problem we need to face is how to escape alive from the Lord of Chaos, the Master of Gods, and the Lord of Time. Tsing Hui said. Escape alive? Hee, I'll definitely hold on and watch you die in front of me. So what if I die in front of you? In the end, will you still be able to escape the punishment of the Lord of Chaos? The Burning Blood Lord couldn't help but fall silent. Just as Tsing Hui had said, as a mighty life form who had lived for countless years, they rarely fought over personal feelings. Even though the Burning Blood Lord had indeed felt angry when he first saw Tsing Hui, this kind of anger and even hatred could be temporarily suppressed and ignored in the face of survival. What do you want to do? Naturally, I want to escape from this vortex. And to escape, I need your help. Help? The Burning Blood Lord let out a cold laugh. You actually want me to help you? Of course. Surely the Burning Blood Lord isn't afraid that I'm plotting something, right? Even if I really do have schemes, could it be that the Great Lord of Burning Blood thinks that I'm more proficient than you in this aspect? The Burning Blood Lord was silent for a moment, then finally said slowly, "Tell me your plan, and what will I gain from it? Do you still remember that teleportation array you left in your subsidiary world?" Of course I do. We can use that teleportation array to teleport back. Haha, that teleportation array's destination is my Chaos Verse. If we teleport there, we'll just end up in my Chaos Verse. No. That teleportation array's destination isn't your Chaos Verse. It's your Chaos Verse Eternal Shrine. The Eternal Shrine. The Burning Blood Lord's heart thumped, and his gaze instantly fell upon his Chaos Verse. Only then did he discover, the Eternal Shrine he had personally established wasn't in his Chaos Verse. Back then, in order to take control of your Chaos Verse, I exiled the Eternal Shrine. Later, in order to obtain the reverse teleportation array on the Eternal Shrine, I retrieved it from the Chaos Void. But because I needed to teleport between two Chaos Verses at the time, I converted the Paramount God Realm in your Chaos Verse into teleportation energy. However, the Eternal Shrine you personally forged, along with the Paramount God Realm, once again drifted into the Chaos Void. The Burning Blood Lord instantly understood what Tsing Hui was referring to. The Eternal Shrine's materials were equivalent to a fortune artifact, and a fortune artifact that had been tempered thousands of times. Although Tsing Hui had sacrificed the entire Paramount God Realm when teleporting to his Chaos Verse, the Eternal Shrine, as a fortune artifact, hadn't been part of the sacrifice. It was like how you needed firewood to start a fire, but the nails and the firewood wouldn't turn to ash as the fire burned. You're saying, use the Eternal Shrine as your destination and teleport back, then escape the encirclement of the Lords of Chaos, Time, and Gods. But, back when I teleported, I used both the Eternal Shrine and my own Chaos Verse as my coordinates. Now that my Chaos Verse has arrived at this battlefield, the chances of successfully teleporting through the Eternal Shrine alone are less than 1 in 10,000, and each activation of the teleportation array consumes an incalculable amount of energy. Even if the two of us ignite our own Chaos Verses, we'll only be able to attempt it 3 times at most. After that, our Chaos Verse will collapse from exhaustion. 3 times? No. Once is enough. Tsing Hui's face was filled with confidence. He could use the power of the River of Time to select a single success out of 10,000 failures. This was his escape plan. The only problem with this plan was, he had to convince the Burning Blood Lord. You have a way to complete the teleportation in one go? That's right. Tsing Hui nodded. You've seen my Chaos Verse for yourself. If I manage to complete the teleportation, I'll fall into an extremely long slumber that can last for tens of millions, hundreds of millions, or even billions of years. During that time, I won't be able to resist any danger. You, however, are different. Your Chaos Verse is significantly larger than my Chaos Verse. As the price for taking you away, I'll need to use your Chaos Verse as the energy source to activate the teleportation. Impossible. Lord Searchblood growled. If you teleport both our Chaos Verses at the same time, I'll be trapped in the teleportation array as well. My Chaos Verse will once more collapse to the point where less than 1/10 of it will remain. By then, even if I don't fall into a deep slumber, my Chaos Verse will be so damaged that it'll be hard for you to deal with. If you attack me at that time, I probably won't even be able to protect myself. If you aren't willing to use your Chaos Verse as the energy source, then why should I teleport you away with me? Wouldn't it be safer for me to teleport by myself? After all, I have the correct coordinates for the teleportation array. Although I'll fall into a deep slumber for tens of millions of years, or even hundreds of millions of years, it's still better than waiting for death here. You. Lord Searchblood's mind was in turmoil. He felt as though he hadn't had a smooth time since meeting Tsing Hui. His vast chaos verse had been reduced to an incomparably dilapidated state by Tsing Hui's machinations, but now, he was actually willing to use his own chaos verse as the energy source to power the teleportation array. Time is of the essence. We'll need to spend quite a bit of time correcting the teleportation array's coordinates. If we're fast, it'll take a few decades. If we're slow, it might take a few centuries or even 1,000 years. To prevent a victor from being decided in the war between the Lords of Chaos, the Lord of Time, and the Lord of Gods, you'd best make a decision as soon as possible. This is your only chance to escape. As Tsing Hui spoke, it was as though he wasn't going to bring Lord Searchblood along if Lord Searchblood didn't agree. If Lord Searchblood had an expression right now, he'd most likely be twitching. However, just as Tsing Hui had said, these chaos lifeforms that had lived for hundreds of millions of years had long since obliterated the 7 emotions and 6 desires of ordinary people. Even if they showed any emotions, it might just be for the sake of achieving some sort of benefit. After a moment of silence, Lord Searchblood finally agreed. All right, I'm willing to use my chaos verse as the energy source to complete the teleportation array. However, I hope that after the two of us escape from the Lord of Chaos, we'll be able to live in peace. Of course. After all, we've been through thick and thin together. Tsing Hui agreed without hesitation. So, what should I do? I'll send you the teleportation array's docking plan. Now, try to correct the teleportation array, and I'll let you know the final result. All right. Lord Searchblood didn't hesitate after agreeing. After Tsing Hui sent him the docking plan, Lord Searchblood's chaos verse quickly outlined the teleportation array's base plate and then entered the docking mode. As Lord Searchblood began to connect with the teleportation array, Tsing Hui immediately relayed the series of changes that had occurred in the River of Time to the Lord of Plentiful Treasures, Immortal Emperor Fusang, and the others, who were doing their best to analyze time information. Everyone understood that whether or not Tsing Hui could successfully escape the pursuit of the Lord of Chaos, the Lord of Time, the Lord of Gods, and the numerous chaos and creation lifeforms depended on this teleportation. This was also the only method they'd selected from the River of Time. Chapter 982. Due to the difference in the timeline, the 100 years that mortals saw as a lifetime passed by in a flash. In the 104th year since Tsing Hui and Lord of Burning Blood's cooperation, Tsing Hui, who had tested the frequency over 1,000 times, suddenly received some exciting news from the River of Time. He had found the true method to smoothly activate the teleportation array. That's the frequency. Tsing Hui cried out in pleasant surprise. Lord of Burning Blood, use this frequency to activate the teleportation array. Let's teleport away from this battlefield. He had already mentally prepared himself to spend a long time testing the frequency of the teleportation array. After all, there was nothing left in the coordinates of the teleportation array except for the Eternal Shrine. The Chaos Verse where the Eternal Shrine was located had been moved here by him. The chances of successfully finding the correct teleportation method were 1 in 10,000, or even lower. Thus, let alone 100 years, it was reasonable that they wouldn't be able to find the correct frequency even after 1,000 years. Fortunately, there was always a way out. Tsing Hui, who had fallen into a desperate situation, finally got lucky. On the 1088th try, he had actually tested the correct frequency of the teleportation array. The entire process had taken less than 100 years, so short that the Lord of Chaos hadn't even finished dealing with the Lord of Time, the Lord of Gods, and the other chaos and creation lifeforms that had attacked with them. Are you sure this is the frequency? The Lord of Chaos will definitely sense it once we begin the teleportation. If we fail, it will be extremely difficult for us to teleport a second time. It can't be fake. Activate the teleportation array. Xing Hui said with certainty. Lord of Burning Blood glanced at Xing Hui. Seeing the confidence on his face, he no longer hesitated. In any case, the worst-case scenario for him was being killed by the Lord of Chaos. Since there was a chance to escape, he absolutely wouldn't give up on taking the risk no matter how slim the chances were. You can now use your true body to enter my Chaos Verse. Xing Hui nodded and quickly teleported towards Lord of Burning Blood. In the past 100 years, he had been very close to Lord of Burning Blood. He had only been worried that the Lord of Chaos would become suspicious, so he hadn't truly stepped into Lord of Burning Blood's Chaos Verse. Now that he had sped up, in less than a year, their Chaos Verses had begun to merge. No, to be exact, Lord Burning Blood had begun to devour Xing Hui's Chaos Verse. Heh, aren't you afraid that I'll swallow you whole and turn you into a source of power to resist the Master of Chaos? Seeing Xing Hui merge with his Chaos Verse without hesitation, Burning Blood Lord couldn't help but sneer. I trust that you wouldn't make such a decision that harms others without benefiting yourself. After all, there's no other way for you to escape the Lord of the Chaos Verse. Furthermore, I've been replenished by the laws of immortal Tao, and I've naturally completed the transformation of eternity. I might have to be wary of you if you devoured me when you were at your peak, but now, even if you did, I could easily tear my way out of your Chaos Verse. In the end, not only would you be helpless against me, you'd even be severely injured. Xing Hui said calmly, his expression full of confidence. Lord Burning Blood snorted softly and said no more. Although the Master of Chaos was currently in the midst of infinite fragmentation and his control over his Chaos Verse had fallen to the absolute limit, he was still slow to notice Xing Hui's fusion with Lord Burning Blood's Chaos Verse. His powerful divine sense suddenly descended upon this region of space, accompanied by a mighty surge of power that swept in from the edge of the Chaos Verse. What are you two doing, Lord Burning Blood and this brat? Do you really think you can escape from me now? Lord Burning Blood and Xing Hui said nothing as they did their utmost to complete the fusion of their worlds. At the same time, an enormous teleportation formation gradually took shape within Lord Burning Blood's Chaos Verse. As it took shape, countless planes outside Lord Burning Blood's Chaos Verse began to collapse, transforming into pure energy that poured into the formation. For a moment, ripples of teleportation spread out from Lord Burning Blood and Xing Hui, seeming as if they were about to sweep them away and flee from the Master of Chaos Verse. This immediately infuriated the Master of Chaos. He unleashed a terrifying pressure that made others shudder, and an even more terrifying power surged forth in an attempt to stop Lord Burning Blood's teleportation formation. You can't leave. His divine sense, brimming with boundless might, wreaked havoc in the endless void. When Xing Hui saw the terrifying power surging towards him, he immediately pointed with a finger. A circle of ripples rapidly spread out in all directions. The power of laws of all the broken immortal Tao civilizations within the Master of Chaos began to tremble, rapidly interfering with the circulation of the Master of Chaos power and causing his power to plummet. These laws of the immortal Tao civilizations had actually been left behind by the Master of Chaos to study the mysteries of the immortal Tao civilizations. Now that Xing Hui had activated them and unleashed them, though they couldn't harm the Master of Chaos, they could cause serious interference. Moreover, in order to withstand the attacks of the Master of Time, Lord of Gods, and many other Chaos and Creation realm beings, he'd already split his body to several times its original size. The direct effect of splitting his body was that his control over his own power had greatly decreased. Moreover, most of his power was focused on resisting the attacks of the Master of Gods and the Lord of Time. At this moment, he actually couldn't draw back enough power to stop the two of them. He could only watch as the teleportation energy grew more violent and swept out to its heart's content. You can't escape. No matter where you go, I will definitely find you. An enraged roar mixed with a suffocating and terrifying will resounded through the void. Finally, when the teleportation energy gathered to its limit, the Master of Chaos Verse shook violently. Whether it was the laws of his own or the laws of the Master of Chaos-Chaosverse, they all crumbled at this moment. A chaotic torrent that truly represented a supreme ruler poured down along with the teleportation energy, instantly tearing apart the Master of Chaos-Chaosverse and engulfing the Chaosverse of the Master of Burning Blood and Xinghui. After a series of terrifying tremors and howls, the two chaos verses that had shrunk to less than 600 million light-years in diameter suddenly erupted with a great amount of light and ripples. When the light and ripples spread out, both the chaos verse of Xinghui and the chaos verse of the Master of Burning Blood completely vanished from the Master of Chaos verse. Rumble. Outside the Master of Chaos verse, the Master of Time, the Master of Gods, and a series of creations and chaos beings were still constantly attacking the Master of Chaos. They had no idea what was going on. But at this moment, the Master of Chaos couldn't be bothered to pay attention to the Master of Time and the Master of Gods. His gaze fell on the chaotic void where Xinghui and the Master of Burning Blood had disappeared. His gaze seemed to penetrate the flow of time in that chaotic void, tracing back to an even deeper place. Then, he looked up. He looked in a certain direction. You have truly infuriated me. No life form can stop my determination to step into eternity. If you had offered me the supreme treasure that contained the profound meaning of eternity, it wouldn't have been difficult for me to reward you handsomely after I achieved eternity. However, you should never have obstructed my path to the ultimate realm. Anyone who obstructs my path to the ultimate realm will only have one end, and that is, death. The Master of Chaos roared, and the shadows of 12 divine beasts suddenly appeared in his chaos verse, which was so huge that it was unknown how many billions of light-years it was impossible to measure. Of the 12 divine beasts, 6 looked incomparably real, while the other 6 had been completely reduced to incorporeal forms and were struggling at death's door. However, under the infusion of the Master of Chaos' terrifying power, the 12 divine beasts began to rapidly fuse according to a special formation, faintly forming a terrifying and imposing figure. The Disk. The Primordial Disk. The Eternal Disk. The Ultimate Disk. The gradually forming shadow of the primordial disk was extremely unstable and tottering, as if it could collapse into nothingness at any time. However, before the shadow of the primordial disk could completely collapse, an unimaginable amount of immortal matter swept in from all directions. The amount of immortal matter that Xinghui had obtained in the Burning Blood Master's Chaosverse was almost a drop in the ocean compared to the amount of immortal matter that had appeared in the Master of Chaos universe. It was not even 1,000th, or even 1/10,000th of it, let alone 100th. In the endless amount of immortal matter, a terrifying and majestic consciousness was split and suppressed by a supreme treasure that was mixed with the mysteries of the past and the future. It was integrated into the body of the primordial disk that was completely piled up by immortal matter. This majestic consciousness was the Master of Chaos. Through the supreme treasure that was mixed with the mysteries of the past and the future, the Master of Chaos temporarily split and overdrew a part of his future consciousness and poured it into the primordial disk that was made up of immortal matter, causing the primordial disk to be immediately given real life. It belonged to a great existence at the 6th tier of the Chaos realm. Roar! After the Master of Chaos completed the transfer of his consciousness, the primordial disk that was 10 trillion light-years tall, no. It was not the primordial disk, but the immortal disk. This was an immortal life that was completely molded by immortal matter. The immortal disk let out a roar that was filled with anger, as if announcing its existence to the entire chaos void. Under the influence of the power of time, the sound waves of this roar easily crossed the distance that needed to be transmitted over thousands of years. It reverberated in the sea of consciousness of the Master of Time, the Master of Gods, and even the many great existences of chaos and creation. It made them feel an indescribable sense of terror. What happened to the Master of Chaos? The Master of Time and the Master of Gods, two supreme existences at the 6th tier of the Chaos realm, were shocked. Chapter 983. Rumble. The Time Lord and the Master of Gods didn't need to figure out what was going on inside the Master of Chaos. The immortal disk with a diameter of 1 billion light-years strode out of the Master of Chaos. Even though a billion light-years was a far cry from the Lord of Chaos' true form, and was not even worth mentioning when compared to the universe of creation created by the Lord of Time and the Lord of Gods, when he stepped out of the Lord of Chaos' chaotic universe, all great beings who saw him were stunned. The mighty chaotic Yuan Qi turned into a storm and spread in all directions. The imperishable disk was like the king of the space-time and the void, bringing with it a dominating aura. It instantly stirred up the space-time in the chaotic void. It was like a black hole that could devour everything, including space-time. The moment it appeared, both space-time and time had to bow before it. Subduing space, subduing time. Eternity. Eternity. Is this the eternity that represents the ultimate of everything? Many chaos beings and creation beings who were watching this scene from afar felt an unprecedented impact on their souls and spirits the moment they saw the immortal disk that the Master of Chaos manifested. They couldn't help but lose their composure and cry out loudly. It wasn't just these chaos beings and creation beings. Even the Time Lord and the Master of Gods who had reached the 6th level of the Chaos realm trembled violently when they saw the majestic figure that subdued space and time. For a moment, they couldn't control their divine consciousness. The operation of the creation universe shook violently due to the ups and downs of their emotions at this moment. Countless stars were destroyed and countless beings were crushed under the dissipation of his thoughts. However, the two of them were supreme beings who had cultivated to the peak of the Chaos realm. Although their accumulated foundation wasn't as strong as the Master of Chaos to trace the primordial disk back to the immortal disk and attempt to use immortal substances to create the immortal disk's eternal body, they could tell that the immortal disk wasn't the true ultimate. It wasn't true eternity. All the space-time energy in his body originated from his immortal substances. Once the space-time energy contained in the immortal substances was exhausted, the immortal disk's ability to subdue space and control time would vanish. An undying avatar made of undying matter for 1 billion light-years, oh my god, just how much undying matter would that take? The Time Lord couldn't help but inhale a breath of cold air as he watched the immortal plate stride forward. When the Lord of Chaos fought us, he never used eternity substance. I thought he didn't deliberately collect such precious resources, but I never imagined that the amount of eternity substance stored in his body would reach such a level. Compared to him, what I've collected over the years is not even 1/100th of what he has, much less 1/10th. Is this the foundation of a chaos being that has lived for who knows how many billions of years? The Master of Gods couldn't help but sigh. However, the immortal plate, who had emerged from the chaotic universe, clearly couldn't be bothered with the Master of Gods and the Time King. He didn't dodge or evade the attacks of these two 6th-tier existences. Instead, he strode forward. Under the acceleration of spacetime, each step he took was equivalent to 100 years of travel. His speed was unbelievably fast. Before the Master of Gods and the Time Lord could dodge, his body had already crashed into the chaotic universes of the two supreme existences. The space-time energy was activated around him, transforming the chaotic universes of the two supreme existences into a vacuum and a void. No. This wasn't a vacuum. It was just that the space-time of this area was not the same as that of the Master of Gods and the Time Lord. Currently, the Master of Gods and the Time Lord were intercepting the immortal plate of the Master of Chaos. However, when the immortal plate projected its space-time energy into the creation universes of the two supreme existences, the space-time around him had already changed. Perhaps it was hundreds or thousands of years ago, or perhaps it was hundreds or thousands of years later. In short, in this space-time, the Master of Gods and the Time Lord did not appear in this chaotic void. Naturally, what was projected in front of the immortal plate was a vacuum-like void. This power of time, the Master of Gods and the Time Lord's expressions became extremely solemn. Due to the Time Lord and the Master of Gods' enormous bodies, and the immortal plate's body was even smaller than some fifth-tier Chaos Realm life forms of creation. A life form of creation had no idea what was happening. Instead, he immediately intercepted the immortal plate and asked the Master of Gods and the Time Lord from afar, "What's going on? Why is the Master of Chaos suddenly so quiet? And just now, I heard a roar that pierced through space-time. Could it be that the Master of Chaos has already obtained the supreme treasure that contains the secrets of eternity from the immortal Tao civilization?" The Master of Gods and the Time Lord did not speak. Instead, it was the immortal plate that the Master of Chaos had transformed into that abruptly turned its gaze to the fifth-tier Chaos Realm life form of creation. The immortal plate that the other party mentioned seemed to have stabbed a sore spot in his heart. It made him glare, and in the next moment, he slapped the void with his palm. Scram! Buzz buzz! Circles of formless ripples immediately spread out in all directions. This was a chaotic storm that was mixed with the power of spacetime. Although the immortal plate that the Master of Chaos had transformed into had only slapped the void, the fifth-tier Chaos Realm life form of creation that had appeared screamed in horror. The entire creation universe began to collapse on a large scale. In an instant, almost a quarter of the creation universe had collapsed before everyone's eyes. To a life form of creation that was unable to divide infinitely, the collapse of a quarter of the creation universe was equivalent to tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of years of cultivation. The Master of Chaos's attack was equivalent to destroying hundreds of millions of years of cultivation of this life form of creation. Time, this is the power of time. This fifth-tier Chaos Realm life form of creation hurriedly screamed and retreated rapidly. At the same time, the immortal matter in the creation universe shot out continuously as though it was free, disrupting the surrounding spacetime. It was as though he was afraid that the immortal plate that the Master of Chaos had transformed into would attack again and destroy his creation universe directly. Even though the immortal plate that the Master of Chaos had transformed into had slapped the void, in his spacetime, he had hit the fifth-tier Chaos Realm life form in front of him. This kind of attack was projected through spacetime effects and was reflected on his body. This was why this life form of creation had the phenomenon of his universe collapsing. In actual fact, at this time, even if this life form of creation wanted to retaliate, he could not do anything to the immortal plate that the Master of Chaos had transformed into. When faced with an attack, the immortal plate could completely disrupt the surrounding spacetime and guide the opponent's ordinary attack to other timelines. In other timelines, the immortal plate that the Master of Chaos had transformed into was obviously not attacked. In other words, the immortal plate that the Master of Chaos had transformed into was easily immune to any attacks that were not immortal matter. Even the attacks of fifth-tier Chaos Realm life forms and life forms of creation were no exception. Only the attacks of the Master of Time and the Master of Gods had a slight chance of hitting the target. And this slight chance, it had to be built on the foundation of casting a wide net. This was the terror of the immortal plate that the Master of Chaos had transformed into. A terrifying life form that existed in the past, present, and future at any time. Even though this kind of power could only be achieved by stimulating the spacetime power of the immortal matter, compared to the true ultimate position of the eternal realm, it was not far away. After understanding this point, the fifth-tier Chaos Realm life form of creation that had stepped forward immediately moved away from his body obediently. He did not dare to say anything unnecessary and did not even dare to speak rashly. It was not just him. Even the remaining life forms of creation and chaos that had followed closely behind were deeply shocked, and they saw the immortal plate that the Master of Chaos had transformed into. What did a billion light-years of immortal matter mean? It was almost equivalent to a top-notch great medium seeing a creation universe of a life form of creation. No matter how many creation artifacts that great medium had in his hands, if he dared to rely on these creation artifacts to smash a creation universe, he would still be courting death. At this moment, these life forms of chaos and life forms of creation could only choose to watch from afar as the Master of Chaos strode into the chaos void. Not a single life form dared to question the Master of Chaos, for fear of angering him and causing a calamity to befall them. Such speed. The Master of Chaos speed is much faster than us 6th-tier Chaos Realm life forms of creation rushing at full speed. He has temporarily abandoned his own body and is using an incarnation that is similar to his true body to travel outside. A life form of chaos that is invincible as long as he stays in his own chaos universe has actually left his own chaos universe. How furious must he be? The Master of Gods glanced at the immortal plate that the Master of Chaos had transformed into, and then at the Master of Chaos' true body that was so huge that even 6th-tier Chaos Realm life forms of creation like them were helpless against it. He was somewhat puzzled. But the Master of Time didn't waste his breath and chased after the Master of Chaos in his immortal plate form. What else could make the Master of Chaos, who only cared about ultimate eternity, take such a risk other than a treasure that contained the secrets of eternity? Although the Master of Chaos in his immortal plate form was unbelievably powerful, he had lost his greatest advantage after leaving his true body, the immortal body that came with infinite division. In other words, at this moment, the Master of Chaos was no longer unkillable. Even if the Master of Chaos in his immortal plate form eventually obtained the immortal Tao civilization's treasure that contained the secrets of eternity, they might still be able to take it back. Not long after the Master of Time gave chase, the Master of Gods and many other life forms of creation and chaos reacted one after another. In the next moment, at least 20 of them gave chase. As for the dozen or so remaining, it was very simple. Although the Master of Chaos in his Chaos Universe form was said to be immortal and indestructible, it was still very difficult to kill them unless they were as unlucky as the Burning Blood Lord and were directly swallowed into the Master of Chaos body. However, although the Master of Chaos in his immortal plate form had lost his immortal and indestructible characteristics, but it would be extremely easy to kill them again. This could be seen from the outcome of the 5th-tier Chaos Realm life form of creation. It was just that as a 5th-tier Chaos Realm life form, their desire for the treasure that contained the secrets of eternity had not reached the point where they were willing to sacrifice their lives for it. Chapter 984. BZZZ. Ripples of energy rippled out from the primal chaos, and then, as if two boulders had been tossed into the surface of a sparkling sea, a large number of waves splashed out. The waves spread out in all directions, battering the surrounding primal chaos and setting off countless primal chaos storms. These two boulders were none other than Xinghui and Burning Blood Lord, who had escaped from the battlefield of the Lord of Chaos, Lord of Time, and Lord of Gods. Although they had escaped from the encirclement of the battlefield, the two top existences were in an extremely difficult situation at this moment. Xinghui fared better. Although his primal chaos universe was severely damaged, it still maintained a volume of about 2 trillion light-years. However, Burning Blood Lord, who had been tens of thousands of times larger than Xinghui, had been reduced to less than 10 million light-years in size. Even the weakest chaos life form was far larger than him. It had to be said that Burning Blood Lord's vitality had been greatly damaged, and he was at the end of his rope. Fortunately, although he had paid such a terrible price, both Burning Blood Lord and Xinghui had managed to escape from the encirclement of the Lord of Time, Lord of Gods, Lord of Chaos, and many other creation and chaos lifeforms. Your Excellency Xinghui, please keep your promise. Burning Blood Lord hadn't yet fallen asleep, but he still felt a sense of trepidation as he stood before Xinghui. Xinghui looked at Burning Blood Lord. He had thoroughly offended Burning Blood Lord. Once Burning Blood Lord recovered his volume, there was no guarantee that he wouldn't harbor ill intentions against him. However, Xinghui sensed his own primal chaos universe. As the Lord of Time, the Lord of Chaos, and the Lord of Gods fought, Qing Su had already activated all of the fragmented laws of the immortal civilization and absorbed them into his chaos verse. Even though he did not absorb all of the fragmented laws, he had absorbed at least half of them. With half of the power of the laws of the immortal civilization, his chaos verse, which was only 2 trillion light-years in size, had already completed its metamorphosis towards indestructibility and gained the trait of indestructibility. Even though it did not possess the mysteries of time like indestructibility, time could no longer leave a mark on his body. This was a sign that he had reached the 5th level of the Chaos Realm. What he needed to do next was to stabilize his 5th level chaotic realm. Moreover, his primal chaos universe had the characteristics of both chaos and creation lifeforms. Even if Burning Blood Lord recovered to his peak, as long as he didn't advance to a level that was on par with the Lord of Chaos, it was still unknown who would be the victor. After a moment of silence, Qing Su said slowly, "I will keep my promise, but I need a guarantee from you. From today onwards, you can never approach the chaotic space where the immortal Tao civilization once resided." Of course. The only thing that attracts my attention in that chaotic void is the supreme treasure that contains the mysteries of eternity. Apart from that supreme treasure, the others are nothing. The Time King, the Master of Gods, and the Primal Chaos King have their eyes on the supreme treasure that contains the mysteries of eternity. They won't give up until they obtain the supreme treasure. Even if I rely on the infinite division technique to recover, it will take me millions of years. By then, the battle between you two will have already come to an end. No matter who obtains the supreme treasure, their cultivation base will definitely improve greatly and they won't be a match for me. Then, what reason would I have to go to that chaotic void? Xing Hui looked at Burning Blood Lord, his divine sense containing a faint pressure. Although I know that promises and guarantees are of no effect to existences like us because no one can bind our will, I still choose to believe you. I hope you will keep your word. Xing Hui then shifted his primal chaos universe. Alright, I have some people in your primal chaos universe. Hand them over to me. You may leave. Many thanks. Burning Blood Lord solemnly agreed, then transferred Vast Sea and the others who had been lying in ambush in his primal chaos universe to Xing Hui's primal chaos universe. Finally, he said, "Farewell. I hope the two of us will never meet again in the future." I hope so. Xing Hui nodded noncommittally. Burning Blood Lord didn't say anything else. His primal chaos universe, which was much smaller than Xing Hui's, began to shift deeper into the primal chaos void. At the same time, his primal chaos universe was rapidly splitting. In just a short while, its volume had increased by 10 to 20%. After watching Burning Blood Lord leave, Xing Hui's divine sense descended and glanced at Vast Sea and the others in his primal chaos universe. "Are you all alright?" he asked. "I'm fine. Lord Xing Hui, did something happen to our plan?" Vast Sea asked. "Something happened," Xing Hui shook his head. "Many things happened. I underestimated the trap the Time Lord had set in the Divine Yen civilization and almost fell into it. It's a stroke of luck that I was able to break out of the encirclement and save my life." Vast Sea's eyes widened in disbelief. "Alright, we'll have an incomparably long period of time, so long that it's beyond my imagination. If there's anything you want to say, let's talk about it slowly during this period of time." "Let's talk about it later," Xing Hui said. He withdrew his divine sense and didn't waste any more time. He had to hurry back to the immortal Tao civilization's territory. After all, whether it was the people of the immortal Tao civilization, his friends and family, or his senior sister Jiang Ningji, whom he had just found, they were all the motivation he had to work so hard to protect. Now, I have the common characteristics of both a creation and chaos life form. I have the extremely precise control of my universe as a creation life form, and I have the survival ability of a chaos life form to rapidly increase my body size by splitting infinitely. Xing Hui's heart stirred slightly. With the chaos realm as the center, countless stars began to appear in all directions. The stars continued to expand outwards like the process of the Big Bang, constantly expanding and increasing his body size. Almost every moment, his body size was increasing geometrically. Perhaps the total amount of energy he had derived and exchanged in a single breath was equivalent to the energy a great divine ability expert would absorb in a lifetime. At this rate, in less than 50,000 years, my body size will reach the level of the Lord of Burning Blood. As a chaos life form, the Lord of Burning Blood is known for his enormous body. In terms of size alone, he's not inferior to the 6th level Lord of Time or Lord of Gods at his peak. In fact, he might even surpass them. Xing Hui smiled faintly. In terms of size, he was on par with the Lord of Time and Lord of Gods. In terms of speed, he was also on par with the Lord of Gods and Lord of Time. The only difference was that he didn't have the ability to alter time and space like the Lord of Gods and Lord of Time. However, he had the river of time in his chaotic universe. With it, he could clearly analyze what kind of attack he was about to face and avoid it in advance. He could even use the river of time to see if his attack had hit its target and if it had taken effect. Then, he could use this method to adjust his next attack and make it more advantageous for him. Under these circumstances, he wasn't completely defenseless against the Lord of Time and Lord of Gods. When he thought of this, Xing Hui's mood lightened considerably. The only thing that worried him was that he was too far away. Even the clone he'd left in the immortal Dao civilization couldn't sense it clearly enough. If he wanted to use the river of time to gain a series of techniques not inferior to those at the 6th level, he'd have to get closer to the chaos void where the immortal Dao civilization was and sense his clone again. Time flowed. Before he knew it, 60,000 years had passed. The sea turned into mulberry fields. Xing Hui, who was traveling at full speed, clearly understood the meaning of the phrase, the sea turned into mulberry fields. In his chaotic universe, especially in the chaos plane he'd focused on developing, a large number of lifeforms had been born. Ancient trees rose from the ground, giant beasts roared in the forests. Although the intelligence of these creatures was very low, under the influence of the unique environment of the untainted world, the bodies of each giant beast were extremely strong. If they were in the outside world, they would definitely be catastrophic existences that could collapse mountains and rivers and even destroy stars. 60,000 years. To be exact, it had been 63,000 years. This could be considered the longest period of time in Xing Hui's life. It had been less than 10,000 years since he'd started cultivating as a mortal to become a chaos life form. The longest he'd cultivated in seclusion was only 5,000 years. He'd spent 63,000 years drifting through the chaos, repeating the same thing day after day. It was so long and boring that it could drive him crazy. If it weren't for the fact that he'd taken in many life forms from the Blazing Blood Lord's chaotic universe, as well as the fact that he'd had acquaintances like Vast Sea to talk to and relieve his boredom from time to time, he would have been driven mad by the long journey. As for cultivation, after 63,000 years, he'd already split to the limit of what his current strength could bear. Relying on the wonders of the Fortune Jade and the good foundation he'd laid back then, he was about 30% bigger than the Blazing Blood Lord's chaotic universe and almost twice as big as the creation universe of the Lord of Gods and Time Lords. However, although his movement speed was equivalent to that of a creation life form and was even enhanced by the immortal civilization, he was still slower than the Lord of Time and Lord of Gods because he didn't have the ability to accelerate time. But at this very moment, he was undoubtedly much stronger than when he'd just broken through to become a chaos life form. This was also why he had the confidence to return to the chaos plane where the immortal civilization was located. Just as Xing Hui felt that it would take him another 60 to 70,000 years to reach the chaos plane where the immortal civilization was located, a mighty energy wave cut through layers of chaos energy from the depths of the chaos plane and strode toward him. A divine consciousness mixed with anger and hostility almost instantly locked onto Xing Hui's chaotic universe. The imperishable plate that the Lord of Chaos had transformed into, he'd arrived. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.